Hi, I'm Charles with AniCap. The story begins on an island where a group of hunters face off against several giant monster ants. Their leader gets up close and personal with one as he explains that they must hold the monsters back at all costs and they cannot retreat. This group is quickly overwhelmed by the overgrown insects and their leader begins to lose consciousness. One of the ants is snacking on his insides and the leader's life begins to fade away. Just then, a man rescues him from becoming ant food and shocks the leader with his unbelievably powerful healing magic. The leader screams as this man is about to be attacked as well, but he is quickly saved, and the man that saved him calls on his teammate to follow up his attack. This next teammate is an absolute beast as he smacks around the monsters. The first group realizes that they were just side characters all along, and they are amazed as it becomes very clear that these guys that came to rescue them are S-rank hunters. These guys finish off the red ants, but an even bigger albino ant appears. The attackers decide to engage the leader while leaving the wounded to the healer. These powerful warriors initiate the fight and use incredible teamwork to rip off the thing's face arms. The powerful S-rank warrior then uses one of these face arms to absolutely destroy the giant pigmentless ant. There is no time to celebrate though as the albino army arrives. It turns out that the giant powerful ant was just one of many, but these hunters fear nothing. The mage powers up his lightning, and the brute goes into roid rage mode, causing his giant muscles to destroy his clothes. Their fight can be seen from the city, where another man is glad that they were able to make it in time. This guy's name is Mr. Choi, and he is busy as the city seems to have a serious ant problem as well. He lights them up with some serious flames, leaving only the colorless ones. There's nothing to worry about though, as he has his team of exterminators to fight them. We then learn that over 10 years ago, portals that could connect to a different dimension suddenly appeared in the world. All types of monsters come from the portal, and only people with awakened special abilities stood a chance at fighting them. These people are called hunters. Based on their magical powers, hunters are classified by rank ranging from S, which is the highest, to E, the lowest. However, the problem these hunters face is that once their powers are awakened, their abilities can no longer be developed no matter how hard they try. 3 years pass from the day of the ant infestation, and we find ourselves in a city. A large group is preparing for a raid mission, and a guy named Kim welcomes some dude with a mullet and sweet-looking mutton chop sideburns. The two guys catch up and hope to make a lot of money if their mission is successful. Finally, our protagonist arrives, and we learn that his name is Jin Woo. Everyone recognizes him, and they all say hello. Mutton Chop's name is Parks. He hasn't been around for a while because he's been watching too many AniCap videos, so he wonders why everyone is greeting Jinwoo, and questions if that means he is really strong. Kim explains that Jinwoo is actually infamous for the exact opposite reason. He just joined the group recently, but has already been given the nickname, the weakest hunter of all of mankind. It's a pretty lazy nickname if you ask me, but it's not an exaggeration. Jinwoo was even injured in an E-rank dungeon and hospitalized. Jinwoo being called there is a sign that this mission they're about to go on is an easy one. The guys try their best not to let Jinwoo hear their conversation, but Jinwoo heard it all, and he can't deny a single word of what they said. Just then, a girl named Juhee arrives, and she's upset to see that Jinwoo has been injured yet again. He was the only one injured during an E-rank mission, and the group didn't even have a healer, because they assumed the mission would be so easy that no one would get hurt. Juhee is mad at his team, but Jinwoo has already accepted the fact that he's just too weak. He has already gotten used to it, but there's no time to throw a pity party as the next mission is about to begin. A man named Song Chi introduces himself to the team and proposes that he be the captain for this mission. He is the highest ranked hunter among them, so they are all glad to have him be their leader. With that decided, the mission begins and everyone starts entering the gate. Kim tells Jinwoo to sit close to the group so he doesn't get injured, and Juhee enters the gate with everyone else. Before Jinwoo enters, he takes a look at his pitiful, sorry excuse for a weapon. A small blade with little magical power. Our boy spent all his money on worthless NFTs and barely gets any income, so that's all he can afford. Jinwoo is determined to do better this time and enters the gate. Elsewhere, president of the Hunters Association named Go just finished a meeting with the government where he was told that they need to avoid something called dungeon break. However, these same people demanded that they supply the goods acquired from the dungeon. Those in the association make a living by reselling goods acquired from the dungeon, so he doesn't have a problem with the request. The crystals obtained from defeating magic beasts are known as magic gems, and they are sold in exchange for money. Back with Jinwoo, we see that he has somehow managed to obtain a magic gem. Of course, he is excited to finally have gotten one, but he must quickly defend himself from a goblin. This thing is relentless, and Jinwoo's blade shatters to pieces when he attacks it. The goblin stabs our boy, and Juhi just stands around screaming. Luckily, the big guy from earlier runs past the useless girl and rescues our injured protagonist. Parks moves on to look for the next beast, leaving Juhi to heal Jinwoo. While she heals him, Jinwoo can only watch as the rest of the team does all the work. We then learn that magic gems obtained from high-rank magic beasts can be made into more powerful weapons to defeat stronger magic beasts. Mana crystals from the dungeon can also be weapons, but their effects are not nearly as good as those of the magic gems. The government wants to use these items as a new type of energy. It's safer and more efficient than all the other types of power, and it even causes less pollution. It's the ideal green energy, and the government is desperately researching how to generate electricity from the gems and crystals. These items can only come from the dungeon, so that makes the hunters extremely valuable. Back in the dungeon, the team celebrates after defeating the dungeon boss. Jinwoo really must be the weakest to ever exist, as he took a ton of damage, and Juhi is still healing him. She wonders why he chose to become a hunter in the first place, since he's always getting injured, and he will surely meet his end one day. Jinwoo apologizes, but his words mean nothing, and she is just worried about him. Everyone gets their spoils from the battle, but there weren't many mana crystals, and they likely won't make much money. Jinwoo wonders if it's really over, and ends up being a bit disappointed to have only gotten a small E-rank gem. Doubt begins to creep in, and he determines that it's not enough to be risking his life over. Just then, one of the guys finds a deep cave, and they wonder if they have entered some kind of double dungeon. This does make sense since they have defeated the boss, but the dungeon isn't closing. Everyone gets excited, but Songchi explains that in these situations, they are to report their finding to the Hunters Association and follow their instructions. The guys complain though and point out that this would mean they would be giving up a chance at finding valuables in an unexplored area. They also point out that it's only a D-rank dungeon, so it shouldn't be so dangerous. Kim then guilts the captain by pointing out that Mullet Man's wife is pregnant with their second child, so they need more money than the stuff they already found will provide. Songchi is concerned about the unknown dangers of the unexplored area, so they take a vote. The vote ends up being tied, with the last one to vote being Jinwoo. Everyone then just waits around, as Jinwoo thinks about how dangerous a D-rank dungeon is for him. However, his father is missing, and he's the only one in his family that can make money. His sister has to go to college so she doesn't end up stupid like him, and his mother has some serious hospital bills. Jinwoo needs money in a bad way, so he votes that they go. Back in the city, some dude is told to place his hand on a black crystal. Some research lady does something on her little computer and calls on the next person. It turns out that these people are being tested to see how strong they are and what rank they will receive. This place is also the best place to recruit newly ranked hunters, and one suit tells Mr. Choi that they have signed a B-rank hunter and 2 C-rank hunters to join them. Mr. Choi is glad to hear it and expresses how he wants anyone with talent recruited, regardless of age or gender. He is hoping to recruit all the best hunters, but he is sure that they already have one of the strongest in someone named Cha Hae. Elsewhere, some thieves steal a purse and prepare to run over a girl that's in their way. This girl fearlessly takes the purse from these guys, but doesn't even make a single expression, like it's just a normal day. This girl is Cha Hae, and everyone marvels at the famous S-rank hunter. She is practically a celebrity, but she can't handle all the attention. Her fans are amazed by her, and she takes off in the most over-the-top way possible. Back in the dungeon, Sanchi explains that the portal closes 1 hour after the boss is defeated, and they have already been walking through the cave for 40 minutes. Jinwoo apologizes to Juhi for forcing her to come along because of his vote, but she's more upset about how he doesn't worry more about his own life. If he had been stabbed even just a little bit higher, then he would not be alive. On top of that, she was barely able to heal his hands and feet. She just keeps scolding him, and he realizes that it's only because of the B-rank healer Juhi that he was able to survive. Jinwoo is very apologetic, so she explains that he can really apologize by treating her to a meal next time. Jinwoo is shocked by how forward she is being, but their little discussion is interrupted when the team finds the boss room. It's rare to find rooms with immense doors like this one, so something doesn't feel right. Kim refuses to go back empty-handed, so he is determined to enter, and the others join him. Back in the city, a group of hunters go through some kind of orientation as they watch a video of Go. He explains that the portal has existed for more than 10 years, and there are still many mysteries unsolved in the dungeon. Being a hunter is a dangerous profession, so even the most experienced ones cannot let their guard down during a raid mission. They cannot be arrogant, and there's one main key to surviving. That key is to be very cautious. Back in the dungeon, we see that this group of idiots have completely forgotten those words, and are entering the mysterious, dangerous, and completely unexplored room. These guys act super casual, like they're on some kind of field trip, as it's their first time seeing this type of dungeon. The statues seem to be at least a century old, and some are holding strange musical instruments. Jinwoo stares at the biggest one, and Juhee becomes uneasy with how eerily quiet it is in there. Everyone wonders where the boss is, and Songchi stares at what looks like a magic circle on the ground. His attention is called to a tablet with some ancient writing, and it has some commandments on it. It's all about worshipping some type of god, but Songchi is more concerned with something else. She is certain that she just saw the giant statue's eyes move, and it was looking right at them. Jinwoo thinks she's just losing her mind, but everyone is shocked when the door abruptly closes. One lady wonders if they are trapped, but some gym teacher looking guy shoves her out of the way. He knew going there was a mistake, and scolds them all for underestimating the dungeon. He tries to leave as he doesn't care about the treasures anymore, but the entire half of his body is instantly sliced off by one of the statues. Everyone is horrified, and they wonder if this statue is what they're supposed to be fighting. Jinwoo is the most shocked among them. The guy that just got wiped out in 1 second was a D-rank hunter. He was definitely stronger than an E-rank hunter like himself, so he knows that he has no chance against the statue. None of what's happening makes any sense to him, as this is supposed to be a D-rank dungeon. While everyone panics, Jinwoo comes to a terrifying realization. If that statue was able to move, then that might be true for the other statues. Jinwoo looks to the giant statue and is shocked when it looks right back at him. A look back into some of Jinwoo's history shows that he has been through many life and death situations. In his first mission, he was separated from his team and attacked. In another, he almost starved to death when trapped in a maze. He was also injured by an E-rank magic beast and hospitalized for weeks. Even the lowest ranked dungeons are life and death for him. Usually, hunters acquire gems, then use the money they get from them to buy stronger weapons. Those weapons are then used to defeat stronger beasts and get higher rewards. That isn't the case at all for Jinwoo though, as he has nothing more than a cheap little knife. If it ever gets damaged in a fight, then he has to fight barehanded. His clothes are worn down and his shoes have holes in them. He endures constant ridicule from others, and he does this dangerous job that doesn't even earn much. The only way he's able to survive is by looking for loopholes, and he does this by carefully observing everything around him. Back to the present, Jinwoo instantly senses the danger from the giant statue, but his warning to the others isn't fast enough. The giant unleashes a powerful beam from its eyes, causing massive destruction. The team is horrified and they can't believe what is happening. Juhee trembles in fear, and Jinwoo wonders how things ended up this way. They are trapped with no way out, and he's shocked to realize that he will be killed. Songchi instructs everyone to stay where they are, as the statue will surely attack again if they move. Juhee is too terrified to move, and Songchi disobeys his own orders to tell Jinwoo that he did a good job. If he hadn't noticed what was happening, then they would have all lost their lives. Songchi is a seriously tough guy, as Jinwoo is shocked to see that he is now one arm short. Jinwoo must stop the bleeding for him, as their healer Juhee is in the fetal position because she can't handle the pressure. She is actually a B-rank healer, but her cowardice makes it so she can only participate in easy raids. Songchi has taken part in many B-rank raids himself, so he can tell that this statue is an A-rank, or maybe even an S-rank. The tablet had things written about praising God or there would be consequences, so Jinwoo determines that this god it spoke of must be the statue. We then learn that 10 years ago, gates appeared all over the place and gave rise to a number of supernatural phenomena. An example of this are the people that awaken to special powers known as hunters. They are tasked with defeating the monsters in the dungeons, and a hunter's power, once active, never changes. At school, Jinwoo's sister tells some girl about how her brother's always getting hurt. This girl can't believe that Jinwoo is a hunter, and remarks that she would be a better hunter than him. Back in the dungeon, Songchi wants to think of a plan to get out, but some dude gets really impatient. He just signed a contract to join some famous guild, so he can't afford to die there. This guy is confident that with his insane speed, that he can get away. This guy really does have amazing speed as he takes off running, but the statue absolutely disintegrates him, leaving only his really fast feet behind. This makes it pretty clear that this statue could wipe them out in an instant if it wanted to, and it would be easy for it too. That begs the question, why doesn't it just do it? Jinwoo realizes that it must have something to do with the first commandment, which is to revere God. Jinwoo stands up as he has come up with an idea and gets a real determined look on his face. Songchi is concerned but is amazed to see that from the look in Jinwoo's eyes, he hasn't given up on surviving this ordeal. Jinwoo looks the statue right in its eyes, but manages to stop it from attacking at the very last moment. He has figured something out and tells everyone to bow their heads. Jinwoo assumes that revering God means that as long as they keep their head low, it won't attack. Everyone else is too dumb to think of another plan, so they all bow down to the statue. They are all terrified as they can't see much and wonder if this will really be enough. Everyone freaks out though when the statue makes a terrifying face. Mutton Chop Sideburns gets up against everyone's recommendation and he gets all excited because the statue isn't attacking anymore. Everyone follows his lead, but Jinwoo feels like there is more to this. Just then, the statue shockingly stands up. The team's supposed leader turns to Jinwoo now, as he hopes that he has some kind of plan. Unfortunately, Jinwoo doesn't, but he is certain that they can't break the commandments set by the tablet. The second commandment was to praise God, so one brave long-haired man steps forward to give something a try. He begins to pray to this thing, and everyone thinks it's working as the monster slows down. Jinwoo knows better though, and reveals that the guy's words don't apply to this god. The statue instantly stomps on this poor guy, and everyone freaks out. Absolute mayhem breaks out as some side character girl gets crushed, and everyone decides it would be best to spread out. Parks thinks about how he can't leave his family without a father, but he picks the wrong place to stay still, as another statue slices him in two. As Jinwoo runs with Juhei, he desperately tries to think of the meaning behind praising God. This monster is practically the devil, so he can't think of anything to praise about it. But what he does know is that he can't leave Juhei alone. As everyone loses their lives around them, Jinwoo frantically searches for clues. As he looks at everything the statues are holding, he comes up with an idea and tells everyone to go to the statues that are holding instruments. Everyone does just that, and it becomes clear that these statues don't attack. Instead, they play their instrument. The one Jinwoo arrives at doesn't play its music, so it becomes clear that it doesn't work with two people. After Jinwoo leaves Juhei, the statue plays music, and Jinwoo rushes to find his own statue. The giant statue nearly crushes him, but a scream points out that Jinwoo has landed in front of the wrong statue. This statue slams its shield right on top of him, causing Juhei to scream out to Jinwoo. Jinwoo is still alive, but in really bad shape. He is determined not to give up, but the giant prepares to end his life once and for all. Jinwoo refuses to die as the giant slams its foot down, but a statue begins to sing, and we see that Jinwoo made it to a statue just in time. He realizes that this is what it means to praise God, and the giant statue takes its seat. Jinwoo tells Juhei that he is fine, but she is stunned to see that his foot was ripped off. He tries to tell Juhei that he will be fine, but she refuses to listen. She is determined to heal him, but her body begins to fail. Everyone is stunned to see how horrifyingly terrible the raid has gone. One guy even tells Songchi that losing his arm was karma for leading them down this path as their leader. The others think that's a bit too harsh, but Songchi takes full responsibility. Jinwoo is way smarter than all these people though, as he knows that there's no time to be fighting since there is still one more commandment left. Just then, the giant raises an altar at the center of the room. Jinwoo knows them well from legends, where they are used for offering treasure and sacrifices to the gods. The third commandment was proving your faith to God. Kim assumes that the sacrifice must be someone's life, and he couldn't think of a better candidate than their leader. They have all had to witness the deaths of their team, and Songchi is the one responsible. Songchi decides to go to the altar, but Jinwoo points out that it isn't all his fault, since they voted to come down there. A fire appears as Songchi approaches the altar, and he asks Jinwoo if there's something else he needs to do. Jinwoo is not only the smartest of the bunch, he is also the bravest, as he asks the others to help him get to the altar so he can examine it. Jinwoo doesn't think anything bad will happen to them, so they take him and they find that more flames appear. Songchi keeps asking Jinwoo for answers, but he hasn't come up with anything yet. Songchi explains that the gate has been open for a week, so the statues will likely start moving again before anyone comes to rescue them. Jinwoo recalls how it takes 7 days for a gate to open all the way, and that is called a dungeon break. When that happens, the beasts are able to cross over to the other side. One of the main objectives of raids is to defeat the dungeon boss and shut the gate down before that time is up. This means that if they fail to defeat this boss now, then that terrifying giant will be able to enter their world. Back in their world, Gina goes to see Jinwoo's mother. She chats it up with her, but their mother is in really bad shape. In the dungeon, Jinwoo tells the cowards of the group to come towards the altar, since he predicts that they need a flame to light up for each person. Once they do, more flames appear, and the door opens right up. They fear that it might be a trap, and the other statues shockingly begin to start moving towards them. Everyone panics, but Jinwoo keeps his calm to analyze the situation. This absolute genius realizes something else and tells everyone to keep their eyes open, as the statues won't move if they are watching them. Everyone listens to his orders, and it surprisingly works. Everyone does their best to keep their eyes on the terrifying statues, but one woman succumbs to fear and tries to run for the door. The second she crosses the circle, her fire goes out, but she does manage to run out the door. Song-chi can't understand what's happening. The door clearly closed a bit, but the girl did seem to make it out. He thought they needed to stay in the circle, so of course he turns to Jinwoo for answers. Jinwoo is just as confused, but he once again analyzes everything. The blue flames have been dying out over time. One of the orange ones went out when someone escaped. The first order was to revere, the second was to praise, and the third is to prove their faith. Jinwoo is certain that the door must be a trap. This situation is causing danger and fear, and now offering a false sense of hope. This makes him wonder if it's testing their faith in this god. Jinwoo is tossed to the ground as the next idiot decides to make a run for it, and the same thing happens. His flame goes out, the door closes a bit, and he seems to escape. Kim has thoughts of leaving, but Jinwoo warns everyone not to move. If anyone else leaves, they won't have enough eyes to keep the statues from moving. He reminds everyone that as long as they keep their eyes on the statues and don't move, they will be safe. Jinwoo shows more of his deduction skills, as he has determined that the blue flames serve as a timer, and when they are all gone, they will be able to leave. Kim points out that there is also a chance that they will just get trapped when the timer runs out. He concedes that he didn't expect Jinwoo, who is their weakest member, to have pulled off as much as he has. The only reason they are alive now is because of him. However, Kim has a family waiting for him, and he doesn't want to die. He just wants to make it home and can't risk Jinwoo being wrong. Kim apologizes and runs out the door. With not enough eyes to keep watch of all the statues, they begin to move again. Jinwoo still refuses to lose his life here and reminds himself that he has managed to make it out of tough situations before. Things are clearly worse than ever though, and Song-chi shockingly tells Jinwoo and Joo-hae to leave. He predicts that the door will stay open as long as one person remains by the altar. The two of them have long lives to live, so he insists that they should be the ones to go. Song-chi wants Joo-hae to look after Jinwoo, but her legs give out on her. Things couldn't possibly get any worse, and Song-chi realizes that Joo-hae must have overexerted herself while healing Jinwoo. Things have taken quite the turn, so Jinwoo tells them to leave him behind. Joo-hae needs someone to carry her out of there, and Song-chi's the only one with 2 working feet. Joo-hae thinks she should be the one to be left behind, but Jinwoo reminds her that he promised to take her out to lunch. He gives her his gem so she can buy a meal with it, and promises to get the change when he gets out of the dungeon. Joo-hae refuses to leave him behind, but Song-chi apologizes and knocks her lights out, as they really are out of time. He apologizes to Jinwoo as well, and leaves him behind to take Joo-hae to safety. Jinwoo can at least take solace in knowing that he will be the only one who has to die, and his only regret is that he didn't take out a better life insurance policy. Jinwoo grabs a hold of a sword, as he is determined to at least take one of these statues down with him, and tells them to bring it on. The statues savagely start attacking him, and Jinwoo gets tossed around. As he struggles to survive, Jinwoo thinks about how he has always been the weakest. He has been mocked for it time and time again, but he has always tried as hard as he could. These statues are relentless as they cut off one of his arms, and Jinwoo screams in agony. Jinwoo is furious that it has to end this way since he tried so hard to be stronger. The statues cause him even more pain and thrash him about further. Jinwoo continues to think about how even though he failed to get stronger, he still gave it his all to get this far. Jinwoo motions to yell in anger one more time, but he can't even do that as he is stabbed through the chest. Jinwoo is just barely alive, but rage overwhelms him as he thinks about the first few people that ran from the altar. They said they just couldn't take it anymore, but Jinwoo points out that they all felt that way, and all they were doing was justifying their own selfishness. The supposed gratitude they felt was superficial, and it's always the most selfish people who benefit the most. Rage fills him even more as he thinks about how he has family too, and he wanted to make it home alive just like they did. He screams in pain as these statues torment him even more, and Jinwoo begins to wonder if it's really a good thing that he's the only one that has to die. As Jinwoo's tattered body lies on the altar, he wonders how he could have thought that way and calls himself a hypocrite. Jinwoo tries to breathe and thinks about how he doesn't want to die. The final attack comes crashing down on him, and Jinwoo wishes that he could just have one more chance. The final blue flame goes out, but a mysterious notification pops up, revealing that a secret quest called Courage of the Weak has been completed. The qualifications to be a player have been acquired, and it asks for it to be accepted. The player's heart will stop in a fraction of a second if not accepted, and the button saying yes is pressed. Just then, Jinwoo wakes up in a hospital and is shocked to find that he still has his arm. He remembers how he was dismembered and finds that he still has his leg as well. There is no sign from when he was stabbed in the chest, so he begins to wonder if it was all just a dream. Just then, a guy named Woo arrives, and he explains that he is the manager of the Hunters Association surveillance team. The purple spiky-haired guy is named Kong, but they don't explain why they are there. They do reveal that Jinwoo was unconscious for 3 straight days. Also, Juhei and Songchi are both alive. Songchi did lose his arm, however, so he may have to retire as a hunter. Juhei was seriously traumatized, so she is undergoing psychiatric care. She isn't doing very well though, so Woo doubts she will continue as a hunter. Only 6 people survived the double dungeon they discovered that day. Although a hunter's job is always a very dangerous one, it is rare to see such a tragic event like what happened that day. And one thing is very strange. When another guild arrived at the scene after being alerted by the survivors, all they found was Jinwoo. There were no traces of the temple or the statues the survivors described. The entire situation is incredibly unbelievable. If it weren't for everyone's stories lining up perfectly, suspicion would be cast on the survivors. That isn't the case though, and Woo has a theory. He turns to Jinwoo and asks him if he has had a second awakening. Woo explains that a hunter's power is determined as soon as it is awakened, and it never changes from that point on. However, on extremely rare occasions, a hunter can go through a second awakening. This rare event lets them exceed their previous limits up to A or even S rank. Jinwoo gets real excited to hear this, and Woo reveals that he brought a manometer to test Jinwoo's power. Woo thinks about how if they really ran into an Instica level magic beast like the survivors said they did, then there's no way a low level hunter could survive. There wasn't a single trace of monsters left behind, so this must mean that a strong hunter was present. Woo determines that the most likely explanation is that Jinwoo underwent a second awakening. Jinwoo eagerly wants to hear the results of his mana test, but the results are not good. Woo explains that they have made a mistake and they leave. Jinwoo only managed to get a score of 10, and even E rankers usually get at least 70. A score of 10 basically makes Jinwoo a civilian. Unfortunately, the dungeon has vanished and can't be explored again, so the explanation for how Jinwoo managed to survive remains a mystery. Jinwoo's disappointed by that entire interaction, but just wonders why those guys didn't ask about the thing floating in the air. He wonders if he's the only one that can see it, and he realizes that it's a touch panel. Jinwoo remembers the message he received about becoming a player, but his thought is interrupted by his sister. She was really worried about him, so he just apologizes and asks if she can see the panel. She can't see it, so he asks her if she knows how opening messages in games usually works. Gina thinks he has gone crazy, but Jinwoo reminds her that she used to play games all the time. She gives him the obvious answer, as he simply needs to check his inbox. Just then, a notification reveals that Jinwoo has received a daily quest, which is strength training. After Gina leaves, our boy opens up a whole bunch of these panels. They reveal that the system is designed to assist the development of the player, and failure to comply with the system may result in a penalty. Rewards have also been delivered, but Jinwoo has no clue what any of this means. Jinwoo confirms his daily quest, and it reveals several goals to reach for doing push-ups, sit-ups, squats, and running. However, failure to complete the daily quest will result in a penalty. Jinwoo begins to wonder if it's a joke since he is in the hospital and doesn't have the energy for any of that. Outside, Woo reports to the chairman that Jinwoo did not seem to have a second awakening. The entire incident still has many unanswered questions, so it will be marked as a special case and further evaluated. Elsewhere, Mr. Choi informs Cha-hae that she will be participating in a B-rank raid as an instructor. This raid will serve as a test and practical training for new recruits, and he couldn't think of a better instructor. Cha-hae has doubts about how well she can teach, but Mr. Choi tells her to just fight as usual, and everyone will learn from her example. He goes on to explain that the Hunters Guild is one of the 5 largest guilds in the country. The problem is that they aren't very special when compared internationally. Hunters are not able to increase their ranks individually, but their collective combat ability can be honed. Elsewhere, another gate opens up, and observers wish the hunters would show up already. At the hospital, Jinwoo is fast asleep as the clock strikes midnight. A notification reveals that he didn't complete his quest, and the ground begins to shake. Jinwoo shockingly finds himself in a desert, and he is horrified by a giant caterpillar monster. Another notification reveals that he has received a penalty quest, and the goal is to survive for 4 hours. Back at the hospital, some nurses see that Jinwoo is nowhere to be found. That is because our boy is in some other dimension, running for his life. The giant caterpillar is closing in on him, and he's shocked to see that there are more than one of them. As if that weren't bad enough, Jinwoo still has 2 hours to go. In the hospital, the nurses continue searching for him. Back with Jinwoo, he doesn't have much time left to go, but he is at his limit from all the running. The caterpillar is just about to get him, but the time is up and Jinwoo finds himself back at the hospital. A notification reveals that he successfully completed the penalty quest, but Jinwoo just pukes and passes out. He receives another reward, but our boy is out cold. Sometime later, Jinwoo tells his sister that he is healing well, and he might be able to go home soon. For now though, he gets dressed in his best tracksuit and heads outside. Elsewhere, Joo-hae receives a request to join a raid as a D-rank gate has appeared. The other guilds are not available, but Joo-hae can't get herself to agree to go. However, Joo-hae gets some good news as she is told that Jinwoo has awakened from his coma. Joo-hae nervously goes to visit him, but some nurses point out that he's running again, just like he has been every day since waking up. Outside, Jinwoo thinks about how it's been 4 days since he regained consciousness, and he has learned a few things. First, he is not hallucinating the pop-up windows. Also, when he completes the daily quest, he gets 3 types of rewards. One is full recovery, which he uses now to get rid of his exhaustion from running. The next is ability points. He can distribute the points into whatever ability he chooses. For now, he adds some to strength, and the difference is very noticeable as he can literally tell that he has more strength now. Furthermore, he also has skill and inventory screens. Jinwoo takes a moment to think about how strange his life has just become and points out how similar it is to a game. Jinwoo didn't realize while he was messing with all his screens, but everyone around was just staring at him. Jinwoo's final daily quest reward is a random loot box. Today's random thing is a mysterious key. So far, he has only gotten useless stuff like pens and bandages, so this key is quite a surprise. A notification reveals that the key is for teleporting to an instance dungeon, and it gives a location. Jinwoo has no clue what an instance dungeon is, but based on what's been happening so far, he assumes that it will be an event to help him get stronger. In this world, gates opening is a common thing, so they even have a gate report on the news to keep track of all the recently opened gates. Jinwoo goes to see his mom and has a memory from when he found her unconscious. It was discovered that she has internal sleep disease, which is also known as final rest. It's a disease that came into existence with the appearance of the gates, and there are theories that it is caused by continual exposure to mana. The best modern medicine can do for those affected is life support. Jinwoo worked hard to save money and eventually qualified as a hunter. He informed Gina that he would be able to afford their mother's treatment soon, but she was worried about how dangerous it is to be a hunter. Jinwoo assured her that things would be okay from now on and told her to leave everything to him. However, it would soon become clear that Jinwoo was useless in battle and he would never get a cut of any rewards because of it. Things are different now though, as Jinwoo works hard to train his body. He puts all his ability points into strength and shows his progress by showing an apple who's boss. Jinwoo is determined to get stronger and heads to the location from the key notification. Jinwoo is prepared with everything he needs and determines that he will simply run away if things get dangerous like they did during the raid. When Jinwoo pulls out his key, a keyhole appears out of nowhere. Jinwoo uses the key to unlock it, and some mysterious gate appears. After walking through it, a notification reveals that he has entered the Instance Dungeon. The exit is sealed off behind him, but normal people don't even notice it. It becomes clear that he is in some separate dimension, and Instance Dungeons are not like the regular kind. He assumes that it's more like a red gate, but he doesn't know much about them since he has never been in one. Jinwoo realizes that he won't be able to simply run like he planned, and another notification pops up. It reveals that the only way for him to exit the dungeon is by defeating the boss or by using a teleportation stone. Jinwoo thinks about how he couldn't even beat an E-rank beast before, but now he must clear an entire dungeon by himself. He wonders if he can really do it, but determines that he doesn't have a choice. As he makes his way through, Jinwoo quickly starts to lose confidence. This is for good reason, as a few goblins appear before him. Jinwoo gets a flashback from when he was stabbed, and these goblins attack him. These little monsters are relentless, and they attack wildly, but Jinwoo does well to evade and block them. Jinwoo is eventually overwhelmed, but he gets furious and pierces one of the goblins. Jinwoo gets more confident after defeating one, so he ends up destroying the two right after. Jinwoo can clearly tell that he has gotten stronger, but another beast shockingly appears. This thing instantly shatters his dagger, and Jinwoo is able to sense that this monster is way stronger than the goblins. As this thing stares our boy down, Jinwoo realizes that his legs won't move. He wonders if he is afraid, and is confused since he didn't think he was traumatized from the raid. Jinwoo's legs continue to tremble, and the monster begins its attack. Jinwoo dodges at the last second, but the thing managed to scratch him. Jinwoo has no healer with him, so if he gets injured, he is done for. This monster howls as it smells blood, and it charges right at Jinwoo. Jinwoo dodges with great agility, and he is amazed at how light his body feels. The monster goes in for another attack, but Jinwoo is done letting himself be intimidated. He refuses to just die, and unleashes a powerful punch. Jinwoo is stunned as he realizes just how much of a difference it made to increase his strength ability. It's clear that this monster is still stronger than him, but that doesn't stop Jinwoo from fighting for his life. His attacks aren't working though, so he must avoid its attack, and Jinwoo is at a loss about what he must do now. Jinwoo determines that he can't do this on his own, so he runs away because he has no party or healer. Jinwoo's bag only has water and food in it, so he wishes he had a weapon with magic power. Jinwoo gets a brilliant idea and opens his inventory to pull out a sword. At the very last moment, Jinwoo uses the sword to slice the monster in half. Jinwoo has no clue how the sword got in there, but he does remember Kim saying that he paid 3 million for it. It's the kind of weapon he could never afford, but this is an emergency, so he decides to put it to good use. Jinwoo's pain from the fight is beginning to fade away, but 2 more of these monsters appear. Jinwoo has a weapon now, so he isn't afraid, but he realizes that his sword is stuck. He frantically tries to get it out as the monsters approach him, and he just manages to do it at the last second. Jinwoo gets one of them, but the other shows him why they are called steel-fanged wolves. Jinwoo kicks this thing as he tells it that he just got his sword, and it needs to find something else to chew on. Destroying this monster just leaves the other one, but Jinwoo points out that these things aren't so bad compared to the giant statue. All Jinwoo has to do is posture, and the other wolf runs off scared. When he gets a break, Jinwoo realizes that he reached level 2, a change that never happened when he was just doing his daily quests. He determines that it's because this was real combat, and realizes that all his stats go up by 1 when he levels up. This means he gets 5 points total from real combat, when daily quests only give him 3. It's clear that fighting is more efficient. What he isn't sure of yet though, is how much of a difference 1 point makes. Jinwoo is certain that strength is the most important stat out of all of them. He has it at 32 now, and his body feels much lighter. Jinwoo speculates that the higher his base abilities grow, the more points he will gain. Jinwoo is more motivated than ever, as he realizes that he finally has a way to get stronger. He goes to check the beast for essence stones, but is surprised to see that he gets items instead. Using the same logic that are in games, Jinwoo assumes that this dungeon and magic beasts inside are different from those that are inside gates. He is then shocked to see that his system also has a shop, but his level is too low to buy anything. He can still sell stuff though, so he gets 20 gold from a tooth. Jinwoo isn't sure how much that's really worth, but remembers that he is in an E-rank dungeon, so it shouldn't be much. Jinwoo then thinks about what he must do now. He can't leave until he beats the boss, and he doesn't know where to find a teleportation stone. To make things worse, if he stays too long, he will run out of food. He is certain that he can't beat a boss right now, even if it's just E rank, and wonders if he should try leveling up first. Just then, Jinwoo is shocked as a whole pack of wolves appear. Jinwoo reminds himself not to be afraid, since he already knows what dying feels like. He charges right at the wolves this time and starts slicing them to pieces. Jinwoo promises not to go down easy, but he acknowledges that the wolves won't either. This guy gets a little crazy, as he would feel bad if the fight ended too quickly. Instead, he wants them to fight and make it intense. Jinwoo just wants to get stronger, and will follow all the system's ridiculous rules if that's what it takes. Jinwoo slashes through all the monsters, and notifications pop up everywhere as he does. When he is all done, a final notification reveals that Jinwoo has acquired the title Wolf Assassin. Outside, some citizens walk by a portal, and they wish that the city would do something about it already. Inside the dungeon, Jinwoo is exhausted, and he realizes that his sword won't last much longer. Just then, a notification explains the benefits of being a wolf assassin, as Jinwoo gets a 40% boost to all attributes when fighting animal-type monsters. On top of that, when he checks his inventory, he finds that he now has a bunch of fangs along with a cloak, but most surprisingly, a teleportation stone. Jinwoo considers using it to leave, but hesitates since he may never get the chance to get stronger this easily ever again. He has no way to know what will happen to this dungeon when he leaves, and it might even vanish. It could be like a limited time event like in a game, and it might disappear without a trace. Faced with this tough decision, Jinwoo decides to just move forward. Outside, Juhei receives a call from the Hunters Association, and is told that there was a dungeon break at a nearby gate. There is a shortage of healers, so they need her help, and Juhei feels guilty because it's the gate that she declined to help with earlier. She thinks about how hard Jinwoo worked and decides to help this time. As Jinwoo fights back in the dungeon, he realizes that the higher his level rose, the easier it became to defeat monsters. Also, the color of the text describing them changed. White seems to mean that they are relatively weak. Orange means they're equally strong with him, and red means that they are really strong. The wolves that were red at first are now white, so this means Jinwoo has already become much stronger. However, Jinwoo is certain that there's one monster down a staircase that he cannot fight against at his current level. Jinwoo's perception ability is higher now, so he can feel that something terrifying is down there. The monster down there is so powerful that it's giving him goosebumps. Jinwoo's sword is nearing its end, but he doesn't think he can level up any further in this area. His entire goal is to get stronger, so Jinwoo decides to just go down the stairs. When he reaches the bottom, something attacks him with so much speed that he barely has time to react. Jinwoo's sword is now broken in half, and a giant serpent appears before him. Jinwoo is shocked since even after all the leveling up he did, this monster's name is still orange to him. It's pretty clear that this snake is the boss, and there is no way his sword could penetrate its armored scales. He is sure that fighting without a weapon would be a death sentence for him, so Jinwoo uses his sword when the snake attacks. This giant snake really knows how to throw its weight into its attacks, so Jinwoo will have to find a way around its defenses. This thing's armor is way too thick, however, so all Jinwoo can do is run. The snake uses its tail like a whip, and Jinwoo knows that he is a goner if it lands a clean hit on him, so he does his best to block it. He takes some serious damage, but this creature is relentless. Jinwoo gets tossed around like a rag doll, and even ends up having an entire train launched at him. Jinwoo thought that he had gotten a bit stronger, but it is clearly not enough. The train nearly crushed him, and Jinwoo begins to question something. How much stronger does he have to get before it makes up for a life spent being a laughingstock? A look back shows when Jinwoo was told about how he was being called the weakest hunter of all mankind. Songchi was the one who told him, and he encouraged Jinwoo to prove them wrong. As the snake overwhelms him with its immense power, tossing him into a whole other area, Jinwoo realizes something. He was given that nickname because he was weak, and the same goes for why he was mocked. Jinwoo takes another look back, and thinks about how those that have overwhelming strength go into every situation with an advantage. As for the powerless, there is nothing they can do around the strong, besides quiver in fear and stand around hopelessly. Those that are weak get looked down upon. A person can be knowledgeable, creative, and considerate, but when faced with strength, none of it will save them. Jinwoo determines that kindness won't save him, so he must become strong. Using this new determination, Jinwoo jumps onto the snake. The ferocious monster throws him off, but Jinwoo once again vows to get stronger, and his body begins to glow. Jinwoo dodges the snake once more to strike it with his sword, but he is more determined now. Jinwoo compares how he feels now to the terror he felt back at the raid, and proclaims that this will be easier than that day. Jinwoo manages to use his sword to mount the snake again, but shockingly tosses it aside to hold onto it with his bare hands. Jinwoo acknowledges that he has focused specifically on increasing his strength since he earned this leveling system. He decides to rely on that now and begins to crush the snake's armor scales. The snake does its best to get rid of Jinwoo, but it's too late as Jinwoo is now certain that he can kill the snake. Jinwoo demands that it die, and he uses his own immense physical strength to defeat the serpent. A notification informs Jinwoo that he has leveled up several times, and our boy lets out a laugh. He realizes that he really has gotten stronger, and we see the aftermath of his great battle. Another notification explains that he just defeated the king of the swamp, and he receives a nice looking dagger for his trouble. It's made from the serpent's fangs, and it has double the attack power of Kim's sword. On top of that, it even has paralysis and drain effects. He also receives a poisonous potion that will cause his skin to harden, but it will cause permanent damage to his muscles. The dungeon goes back to being a train station, and Jinwoo realizes that he really just beat the dungeon all by himself. Jinwoo leaves with his broken sword, but notices that no one is around. A soldier tells Jinwoo to find shelter, but he quickly realizes that Jinwoo is a hunter. The soldier apologizes and decides to take Jinwoo to the battle. Monsters are scattered everywhere, so Jinwoo determines that it must have been a dungeon break, and a magic beast made it out of a gate. The soldier reveals that it has mostly been taken care of, but one giant powerful monster is left. Jinwoo notices that his perception ability has improved dramatically, and he can sense where the boss is. We find this giant golem causing chaos, and citizens are terrified that things will get worse. Hunters struggle to fight against it, and the group's leader instructs the healers to focus on keeping their tank healthy. The healers exclaim that they are doing their job, and the tank wonders what the damage dealers are doing. The damage dealers are also doing their best, but the golem's defense is too strong. To make things worse, they are short on hunters who can use magic. Jinwoo expertly analyzes the situation and determines that this group of hunters is a hastily assembled team. This is the reason they don't work together at all. Jinwoo uses more of his perception to find that they're all low rank as well. A D ranks and 2 D ranks. One of those D ranks is a tank, which is part of the reason why they haven't been able to destroy the golem, and this battle has been going on for a while. He analyzes the healers as well, and is shocked to find that Juhei is among them. Juhei is told to help out by one of the hunters, and she reminds her that she's supposed to be a B rank healer. Juhei snaps out of her fear to use a spell, and the hunter tells her to stay focused. Juhei is still haunted by memories of the giant statue, however, so she loses focus. Jinwoo realizes that she is still shaken up, but he doesn't blame her since he is the same. Just then, Jinwoo reminds himself that things have actually changed. This golem is a D rank boss, and it's weaker than the one he just fought. The hunters panic as they are quickly losing the fight, and they realize that they won't be able to win without a higher ranked hunter. Jinwoo prepares an attack and determines that the hunters can win if they just get through the golem's defenses. Jinwoo plans to assist them by using an attack forceful enough to pierce stone. Jinwoo launches his broken sword with so much force that the golem's shield breaks and the hunters attack it. They barely touch it to take it down and can't believe that they managed to do it, but the tank is very skeptical. He points out that none of their attacks were working before and wonders what it was that destroyed the golem's defense. He is certain that it wasn't any of them since they weren't even doing a single bit of damage to the beast. He noticed that something flew at it and finds the sword nearby. He realizes that this must have been it but can't believe it. This was a boss level golem that over 10 hunters couldn't even scratch, so it's hard to believe that it was taken down by an old used up sword. He asks if anyone saw who threw the sword, and the soldier explains that it was the hunter he brought with him. This hunter has gone missing, and the tank stares in utter disbelief. This person had unbelievable power, and he can only wonder how high of a rank this mystery hunter was. Jinwoo has left the area to hide his power, and he says that he didn't think a single attack would be able to do so much damage. Our boy might not even realize his own power though, as he determines that the monster must have been seriously weakened before his attack. The battle is finally over, and Juhei wonders if Jinwoo was the one who helped out. Some time passes and we see that the nurses at the hospital are all gossiping about the E-rank hunter Jinwoo. They talk about how his face is pretty average, but he is seriously shredded. In Jinwoo's room, we see that our boy is working hard doing his daily workout routine. These thirsty nurses won't stop talking about him, and they all can't believe that he has transformed so quickly. One poor nurse falls victim to Jinwoo's riz while walking in on him after a workout, and she can't stop staring at his chiseled physique. Today is the day that Jinwoo gets to leave the hospital, so the desperate nurse asks for his number. Jinwoo hasn't adjusted to the effects of his newfound riz, and assumes that this obviously thirsty nurse just wants to send him test results after he gets released. On the news, we are reunited with the S-rank hunter from the giant ant attack. His name is Beck, and he gives everyone a glimpse into the life of a top hunter. He is one of only 7 S-rank hunters in the entire country, so he explains that he must train a lot every single day when not raiding dungeons. If he makes even the slightest mistake, his comrades could get injured, so he must always remain sharp. Gina notices that Jinwoo is completely shredded now, and has even gotten taller. Jinwoo reminds his absent-minded sister to take an umbrella to school and sends her off. When alone, Jinwoo decides that he can just do his running later, and wonders if these newly developed muscles of his are because of his increased stats. He determines that if he continues at this pace, he could become a huge bodybuilder. Jinwoo then thinks about where he should put some stats that he just received, and we see that he is now level 18. Strength increases the damage he does, but he realizes that if he can't land a hit, then it's pointless. Aside from vitality, perception, and agility, he also has a stat called intellect. He determines that this must have something to do with magic, and wonders if he even needs that. Jinwoo makes his decision, and puts all his points into strength, agility, and perception. Just then, Jinwoo gets a call from his landlord, who tells him that he hasn't paid last month's rent. Luckily for our boy, he has gotten way stronger, and he can now defeat goblins with relative ease. This makes earning money easier, but there is one problem. To make good money, he has to enter higher level gates, but no one's going to let an E-rank hunter into those. Jinwoo considers getting his rank reappraised, but that's too risky. Not only is having a reawakening extremely rare, there has also never been a hunter who could level up and keep getting stronger like he can. Jinwoo decides to hide his powers, at least until he can defend himself and learn more about his abilities. Just then, Jinwoo is shocked by a job listing and runs off. He completes his daily training to receive a reward and meets with a hunter named Hung. Hung apologizes for his guys that recognize Jinwoo as the weakest hunter to ever exist, but Jinwoo lies and says that they aren't wrong. Hung explains that they're going into a C-rank dungeon, but they need a minimum of 8 people to enter. They need Jinwoo to meet this minimum, even if he is just an E-rank. Jinwoo won't be doing any fighting though, so Hung explains that he also won't be getting any of the rewards. They will, however, give him 2 million yuan. Our boy analyzes these guys to find that there are 4 C ranks and 2 sub-D ranks. Jinwoo agrees to join, and Hung explains that his job will be to carry supplies. Having to carry medical supplies means that they must not have a healer, and Hung explains that it's hard for independent parties to retain healers. A party filled with a bunch of tanks and damage dealers worries Jinwoo, but he decides to sign the contract anyway. A 20-year-old D-rank named Yu introduces himself, and Jinwoo determines that this kid must be from a rich family because of his gear. Yu offers to keep Jinwoo safe, and our boy just continues to let everyone think that he is weak. Yu doesn't seem to realize that Jinwoo is a shredded monster, and wonders if he will be okay carrying all the heavy supplies. Jinwoo says he will be fine, and the kid starts rambling about the president who was overseeing this construction site. He fled overseas while embezzling 900 billion yuan and left everyone shocked. They all arrive at the strangely large gate and wonder if it's really just a C-rank dungeon. Yu wonders if they will really be okay, so Jinwoo explains that the size of the gate doesn't matter much. The level of magic power coming from within is the real indicator, and that's what the Hunters Association measures to assign a rank. Anything higher than a B rank is handled by bigger guilds, so this C rank one shouldn't be too difficult. Jinwoo knows all this because he has been a hunter for a while, but he thinks about how he has never actually tackled a C rank dungeon before. They enter the gate and use the light to see, but are shocked to find that there are no magical beasts inside. Most dungeons are covered in glowstones, but this one is pitch black. This darkness reminds Jinwoo of the temple entrance, and he informs Yu about all types of stones. There are essence stones that hunters recover from magic beasts, mana stones that can be mined from dungeons, and glowstones that light up the caves. Jinwoo then silences the talkative kid and reveals that there are magic beasts in this dungeon, they just haven't shown themselves yet. Our genius protagonist thinks about the monsters that lurk in large numbers in the darkness and are attracted to light. He realizes that they must be insect-type monsters and announces it to everyone. Everyone then panics as they realize that they're inside an ant's nest and they can hear the monsters approaching. Jinwoo declares that the beasts are above them, so everyone begins attacking. Hung uses his taunt skill to take most of the aggro, and Jinwoo marvels at their C-rank leader. Yu wants to jump in, but their mage stops him as he has something cooked up. His countdown ends and the mage unleashes a powerful blast. Jinwoo once again analyzes the situation and can tell that these hunters have good teamwork. As for Yu, his gear makes up for his lack of skill. They all seem to be doing well, but Jinwoo can't shake the feeling that something isn't right. He easily destroys one of these ants in secret, and the fight ends soon after. Hung declares their victory, and everyone takes their share of loot except for Jinwoo. Hung does admit that Jinwoo saved them a lot of trouble by detecting the ants, and Jinwoo explains that he just used his instincts. It is brought to Hung's attention that many of the ants seem to have been attacked by something that wasn't using a sword or magic. Hung thinks it may have been some other magic beast, but that would mean that there is something stronger in this dungeon than these ants. Several of the ants look like they were torn to pieces, so Hung wonders what could be big enough to prey on these ants. Yu explains that his father bought him a bunch of gear for his first raid, and Jinwoo is glad to hear that. He isn't sure why just yet, but he tells Yu that they need to be very careful. Elsewhere, some dude working out is startled by a loud sound of destruction. He is told to calm down, however, as it's not something out of the ordinary. It's just their guildmaster doing his training, and we see that it's Beck. This dude is crazy strong, so the kid is shocked to see that he blew through a giant stone with just one strike. Beck is totally unfazed and explains that it wasn't even good enough for a warm-up. In the dungeon, Yu again worries about Jinwoo carrying everything. Jinwoo points out that he doesn't mind, since getting paid not to fight is a good deal. Jinwoo, however, thinks to himself and wonders if it might actually be too good of a deal. Jinwoo does some more deducing and thinks about how this group is a battle-tested party without a healer. On top of that, they needed extra members to fill the party minimum quota. The group becomes concerned since they have covered a ton of distance in the dungeon, but they haven't encountered a single healthy beast. The dungeon boss is surely still alive, however, since the gate would have closed if it wasn't. They find a bunch of webs and determine that the boss's chamber must be through the tunnel. Going through the tunnel leads them to find a shocking amount of mana crystals. They are not worth as much as essence stones, but there's at least 1 billion worth of crystals there. One hunter remarks that even Hung's brother would be jealous of this find, but he's told not to mention him. Hung has some kind of hidden motive as he thinks about how his brother can't always be the right one. He refuses to defer to his brother, and he plans to use this gigantic haul to grow his strike team. Yu takes a look at Jinwoo's contract since he is good with legal stuff and finds something. He points out to Hung that the contract only states that Jinwoo doesn't get a share of the battle drops. Mana crystals aren't battle drops, so this means they must split their findings 8 ways instead of 7. Hung happily agrees, but points out that the dungeon boss is nearby. Defeating the boss will close the gate, so they will have to mine and haul the mana crystals out before fighting the spider boss. Luckily, the spider is asleep, but Hung yells at one of the hunters for not bringing the transport equipment. Hung tells Yu and Jinwoo to stay put while they go get it, and assures them that the spider won't wake up unless something bothers it. Hung points out how they are both new to C-rank dungeons, and tells them to just trust his decision. He also needs to discuss some stuff with his team, so he decides that they will take a break as well. When they leave, Jinwoo analyzes the situation again. He thinks that it's strange that they didn't have any regulars to call up to help them meet their quota. At a far enough distance, we see just how evil Hung is, as he tells one of his men to seal off the boss chamber. He does, and Yu realizes that they were betrayed. This is exactly what Jinwoo was worried about, and he remembers how Song-chi warned him that there are some real crooks in their line of work. Raiding dungeons is pretty dangerous, and accidents happen frequently. This creates an environment where crimes could be committed, and they would never come to light. There are no security cameras in dungeons, so as long as there are no survivors, there will never be any evidence. Yu is furious that these guys would sacrifice them just for some mana crystals, and he begins to regret mentioning the contract. Jinwoo knows better though, since they were all ready to kill them at any moment if they made the wrong move. Their biggest concern now is the boss that just woke up, and Yu tells Jinwoo to stay back. Jinwoo sees an exit, but he determines that Hung already knows about it. The spider is definitely awake now, and Jinwoo thinks about how the C-rank beast is on a whole different level. Jinwoo quickly comes to his senses though, and takes that back. He takes the lead by telling Yu to stand back as he plans to fight this thing. Jinwoo then summons his weapon and declares that he will beat it. When Hung's group leaves the dungeon, the mage wonders why they didn't just kill the two newbies themselves. Hung explains that they couldn't risk waking up the spider since they wouldn't be able to harvest the mana crystals with it awake. He assures him that this plan will work though, since some guy with no experience and the weakest hunter to ever exist have no chance at surviving against the spider. The plan is to wait for the spider to eat them and fall asleep again. They won't be able to blast their way in since it will wake the spider, but Hung knows about the small path above the cave. The worst case scenario is that the spider doesn't fall asleep after eating the newbies. If their group isn't able to retrieve the mana crystals, then they will at least take Yu's equipment, which is worth hundreds of millions. Hung and the mage both agree that they wouldn't be able to fight the spider themselves, and Hung points out that it should not be underestimated. It's an incredibly dangerous boss, and it's only a matter of time before the newbies are killed. Inside the dungeon, Yu tries to convince Jinwoo not to fight the boss, since only a B-rank hunter would be able to beat a C-rank dungeon boss alone. Even an elite level C-rank wouldn't be able to do it, so Yu thinks they should try to find a way out instead. Jinwoo thinks about how he is right. Even though Jinwoo has had a second awakening and leveled up, he still considers himself very weak. The Venom and Golem bosses were both D ranks, so this spider is worlds apart from them. Jinwoo can't really understand why, but he doesn't feel any pressure right now. He realizes that he must have just become strong enough to no longer fear C-rank bosses. He is level 18 and declares that he has a chance of defeating it. After attacking the snake, Jinwoo declares that the real hunt begins now. Elsewhere, President of the Hunters Association named Go is exhausted from attending a ton of meetings. His driver offers to spar against him to help him feel better, and Go accepts as he can't refuse when a young person seeks his guidance. Back in the dungeon, Jinwoo finds that the spider skin is incredibly strong. Its attacks are surprisingly powerful, and if Jinwoo gets hit even once, he will surely die. Yu watches Jinwoo's movements closely and instantly realizes that this is not the way an E-rank hunter moves. He wonders who Jinwoo really is and questions if he is a false ranker. There are very few hunters who can control their magic power well enough to deliberately get a lower ranking. The ones who do this are called false rankers, and they are usually psychopaths who take pleasure in killing. Yu regrets coming to the dungeon, and Jinwoo determines that he can't deal any damage to the spider's tough hide. Jinwoo's fatigue is increasing rapidly, so he needs to end the fight soon. His dagger has paralysis and drain abilities, so he determines that they will be his key to victory. Jinwoo must use them on the spider's weak spot, but he's shocked when the spider reveals that it has an acid attack. Jinwoo has to close the distance, so he decides to use a new skill called Dash. He uses it to land an attack on the spider's face, but his dagger's debuffs get cancelled out. Jinwoo is never one to give up, so he decides to strike it as many times as he can. Jinwoo pushes himself to keep going faster and faster, but his fatigue causes him to get struck by the spider. Jinwoo is about to get crushed, but he remembers that he still has a reward left for completing his daily quest, so he uses the reward that allows him to fully recover. Yu yells in terror as he thinks Jinwoo has been killed, but our boy is on the move again. He lands another attack, but this time he's able to pierce through one of the spider's eyes, and his dagger's debuffs are applied. Jinwoo doesn't waste this opportunity and stabs the spider several more times, applying the debuffs as well. The spider eventually succumbs to all the attacks, and a notification reveals that Jinwoo has just defeated the master of the dungeon. Jinwoo knows how lucky he was that he didn't have time to choose a reward before entering the dungeon, since he would surely be dead right now. Yu is understandably shocked to see that Jinwoo just defeated a dungeon boss by himself, and he is now more certain than ever that Jinwoo is a false ranker. Jinwoo gets a gem from the spider, and Yu approaches him, offering to carry the supplies from now on. Yu really idolizes Jinwoo now, as he tells him to take a rest while he mines the mana crystals. Just then, Hung and his group arrive, and they're surprised to see that the newbies survived. In a training room, Go shows Wu just how skilled he is, as he easily overpowers him, seemingly without even trying at all. Go thanks Wu since he feels much better now, and Wu is amazed that the president doesn't seem rusty at all. Go explains that he isn't as strong as he used to be, but he can tell that Wu has trained hard. Wu acknowledges that training cannot increase a hunter's level, but it can improve their skills. Go points out that a hunter's physical and mental strength are very important, especially in dungeons where you will find the worst kind of people. Back in the dungeon, Hung's group determines that the newbies were only able to survive because this spider must have been big and stupid. They mock the spider for losing to low-level hunters, and Hung explains that he has already decided on what their next move is. He reveals to Yu that he knows he comes from a wealthy family, but Yu doesn't see why that matters. Hung then tells him that he will only give him one chance and instructs Yu to kill Jinwoo. Hung explains that they usually kill the people they use to fill their party so they can keep all the spoils themselves. However, he will spare Yu if he agrees to become their accomplice. If he refuses though, they will just kill them both. Hung thinks about how Yu might be dangerous because his gear might have special powers that made him strong enough to defeat the spider. He would rather not find out, so he wants to pin him against the weak Jinwoo. Hung is glad when Yu makes his way towards Jinwoo, but is then shocked when Yu ends up taking Jinwoo's side. This evil group decides to just end their lives, and Hung wonders if the newbies ever had to kill any humans before. Just then, Jinwoo receives an urgent quest, and it shockingly requires that he beat the 6 enemies before him. The group decides to kill the one they think is the weaker of the two, so the mage attacks Jinwoo. Yu is worried about his new friend, and terrified when he sees the condition Jinwoo is in. Elsewhere, a member of the group Chahae was instructed to teach, talks about how amazing she is. They struggled with an A-rank beast, but she defeated it in a flash. These girls are glad to be in 2 of the top guilds, since there are plenty of unsavory rumors about other squads. One example of this are strike teams with suspiciously high fatality rates. Back in the dungeon, Hung says it's all over, and declares that Jinwoo is dead. Jinwoo condemns himself for forgetting, and reminds himself that he works in a world where survival of the fittest is the reality. This is a world filled with violence, deception, and betrayal. He fills with rage for forgetting this fact, and realizes that he forgot because he had become numb to it. Jinwoo has calmed down, and thinks about how he fell victim to his own carelessness and overconfidence. This level system is now urging him to kill, so Jinwoo wonders if it needs to keep him alive for some reason. He determines that this system isn't just charity, and it clearly wants him alive. That isn't all though, as it seems to also want him to be strong. Jinwoo declares that if this system wants to use him, then he will just use it too. He tells the group that they reminded him how the weak are the ones that lose their lives in the dungeon. They're glad to hear that the weakest hunter knows how it works, but Jinwoo points out that this means they should be prepared for when this rule doesn't go their way. One of them doesn't like it when Jinwoo calls them the prey, but Jinwoo instantly shows them what he means. Everyone is shocked to see this dude have his head sliced off, and Jinwoo declares that that's 1 down as a notification updates the kill count. Jinwoo realizes that he just killed someone, but acknowledges that he would have died if he hadn't. He can't back down now, as only the strong get to survive. The group snaps out of their shock after just witnessing an E rank kill one of their D ranks, and they attack Jinwoo. It's useless though, as Jinwoo just starts stabbing them one by one. His debuffs take effect, and he takes the lives of 2 more. The archer is next to fall victim to Jinwoo's wrath, and the mage follows soon after. That only leaves 1 left, and Yu is shocked since Jinwoo seems much stronger than when he fought the dungeon boss. Hung realizes that Jinwoo was hiding his power this entire time, but warns him that he's nothing like the other C ranks. Hung reinforces his body, and thinks about how he is certain that Jinwoo is tired after fighting a boss and 5 hunters. On top of that, Hung has made his body as strong as steel, so there's no way Jinwoo's dagger will be able to pierce him. Hung begins his attack, but our boy shocks him with his speed. Jinwoo calmly acknowledges how strong Hung is, but reveals that he has some bad news for him. Jinwoo absolutely crushes him, and reveals that he has been leveling up this entire time. Hung realizes that Jinwoo is definitely not an E rank, and offers to pay him double. Jinwoo points out that Hung tried to kill him 3 times, and scoffs at how he now wants mercy. Hung tries to say that Jinwoo won't get away with this, but Jinwoo reminds him that he was the one that said, whatever happens in a dungeon never gets out. Hung makes one last effort to threaten him, but Jinwoo just ends his life. Jinwoo's quest is complete, but the dungeon begins to collapse since the boss was defeated. When they get out, they report that they were the only ones to survive the fight against the spider. The official is suspicious since they were the lowest level members, but she gets distracted by Yu's gear. Jinwoo can't believe he was rewarded for what he just did, and notices that he received a murderous intent skill. It puts enemies in a state of panic, and cuts all their abilities in half. The simple-minded official determines that Yu survived because of his gear, and assumes that the E-rank Jinwoo just hid somewhere. Yu praises Jinwoo on a job well done, and it begins to rain. Yu wonders if something is wrong, but the very calm Jinwoo explains that he's just glad that he gave his sister an umbrella. Elsewhere, Woo is told about the incident where 6 hunters died and only 2 level hunters survived. It's pretty common for hunters to flee dungeons when they are outmatched, but he is surprised to hear that the surviving hunters defeated the dungeon boss before they left. Woo interrupts this guy before he can explain further, but he is then shocked when he is told that one of the survivors was Jinwoo. Woo sees that this involves the infamous Hung, which makes it clear why this report was brought to him. Jinwoo returns home and informs his sister that he will be able to take care of their mother's hospital bills for a while. Gina assumes that he received a big payday from his last raid, but she points out how he doesn't seem injured at all. She concludes that he must have had a strong team and they made it easy to defeat the bad guys. Jinwoo concedes that it really was easy. Not just how much stronger he was than them, but when it came time to end their lives, he didn't hesitate at all. The old him would have looked for a way to escape, but the new Jinwoo was angry at them for thinking that they even had a chance against him. He wonders if leveling up has made him more bold, but reminds himself that they were humans, not dungeon monsters. Gina snaps him out of it, and he reminds himself why he's getting stronger. It's so he can stay alive and support his family, so he would do what he did in that dungeon again if he had to. Just then, a harmful substance is detected in his body, and he realizes that it's what he's drinking. Jinwoo continues drinking, but he realizes that he isn't getting drunk at all. Just then, a notification reveals a reward he received from the double dungeon. It disables toxic and abnormal conditions and gives him improved regenerative abilities. He was too busy to check his rewards from that day, but it explains why he regrew his arm. Later, Jinwoo meets with Yu, who thanks him for saving his life. Jinwoo doesn't think this kid owes him anything though, since Yu hasn't told anyone about what really happened in that dungeon. Yu reveals that he's putting together a strike team, but Jinwoo rejects him before he can even ask him to join. Yu just needs him for 19 raids and begs Jinwoo to hear him out. Yu wants to become a guild master, but this requires that he have at least 20 raids worth of experience. Yu's father wants to make a guild for his construction company, and Yu wants to help in any way he can. Dungeons are incredibly dangerous, but the treasures they hold make them worth the risk. It's not just the mana crystals and essence stones, everything in a dungeon has value. Jinwoo acknowledges that having hunters raid dungeons for a company is a good business model. Yu's father wants an S-rank hunter as guild master, but this surprises Jinwoo since there are only 7 S-rank hunters in the entire country. To make things worse, the only S-rank not already affiliated with the guild is Min, and he has retired. This must mean that Yu's father plans to take an S-rank from another guild, but Jin warns against that, since he will just be making enemies of the guild he takes them from. Yu takes a different approach to convince Jinwoo, and points out that he will need help with raids, especially if he wants to do them while hiding his power. This works out perfectly for Yu, since it would be more convincing to his father if Yu succeeded while being teamed up with a low-rank hunter like Jinwoo is pretending to be. Yu shows Jinwoo the building they were planning to use as the guild headquarters, and explains that it's worth 30 billion yuan. This is an incredible amount of money, and it's what Yu is offering to give Jinwoo in exchange for helping complete 19 raids. Jinwoo would have jumped at this opportunity in the past, but things have changed since he became the only person that can level up. Jinwoo is certain that he can reach S rank by the way things are going, or perhaps even higher. There are still too many unknowns with his power, and it would be risky to work with someone, so Jinwoo declines the offer. Yu makes one last effort by promising to take Jinwoo's secret to the grave, but Jinwoo scares him with one look and leaves. Elsewhere, Hung's younger brother Wong is furious about his brother's death, and demands that he get information on the 2 survivors. His assistant Laura is shocked when he wants to know what will happen if he kills someone in another country, but she tells him anyway. If they have a treaty with the country, then he would have a trial there, but if not, then he would be sent home for prosecution. Wong wants to leave immediately, but Laura reminds him that he is far too busy, so he plans it for later. He takes another look at the survivors, and just hopes that they survive long enough for him to eliminate them. The next day, Jinwoo goes for a jog with his sister. She can't come up with any ideas for what she would do with 30 billion yuan, since it's too unrealistic. When alone, Jinwoo realizes that his system counter keeps counting even after reaching the goal. Gina finally catches up to him, but he has already decided to test how far the counter will go, and he runs again. He finds that it cuts off at double the goal, and after testing all of the tasks, the daily quest becomes a secret one. The reward for this has some random loot boxes, but one is blessed and one is cursed. Jinwoo decides to try the blessed one for today, and finds that he has received another key. This is the key to the Demon King's castle, but its acquisition level is S. More surprisingly though, the ingredients for something called the Elixir of Life can be found inside. Jinwoo couldn't have asked for anything more perfect, since the Elixir of Life can cure all illnesses. Jinwoo goes to see his sick mother, and determines that he has no other choice. Jinwoo goes to the location, and uses the key to open the gate. He already knows that this will be an S-rank dungeon, which means it will be on par with Jeju Island. Jinwoo wonders if he can handle this danger, but a large gate appears before him, and he goes in anyway. Inside, flames cover everything, and Jinwoo admits to being afraid. However, he can always use his teleportation stone if things get bad. Just then, a giant monster appears before him. Jinwoo has already decided that he needs to get stronger, and vows not to die in the dungeon. This monster has a red name, which means it's much stronger than him, but Jinwoo has the benefits of the Wolf Assassin title. Jinwoo uses dash to quickly close the gap, and he attacks the beast several times. He hardly does any damage though, and that is even with the bonus effects. Jinwoo activates his Murderous Intent skill, but the debuff gets cancelled out. Jinwoo tries to apply his other debuffs with his dagger, but those get cancelled out as well. This monster is absolutely ferocious as it tears into Jinwoo, and he screams in agony. Jinwoo has lost his arm, and his health is dropping as the beast crushes him. He has already lost a third of his life, but things get worse as the beast uses its 3-minute rage skill to boost all its abilities by 100%. The monster's attacks are too fast to dodge, so Jinwoo is forced to use his full recovery reward to regrow his arm. Just when Jinwoo thinks he has managed to harm the beast, he finds that he is wrong, and just continues to get ragdolled. Jinwoo's HP drops even further as he gets stomped on, but he buys himself some time by kicking dirt at the beast. Jinwoo's system keeps throwing warnings at him, making it even more clear that it doesn't want him to die. The more this keeps happening, the more Jinwoo realizes that this is not a normal reawakening. Jinwoo realizes that things are getting far too dangerous, so he decides to use the teleportation stone. Cerberus comes out of nowhere though, and knocks it out of his hand. Jinwoo is in real trouble now, since he will be done after a few more hits. Jinwoo racks his brain to think of a solution, and just now remembers that he has a shop in his system. He purchases 3 healing potions, but they only heal 100 health points each. The poison Jinwoo received from fighting the snake pops up in front of him, and he decides that he has no other choice but to try it. Jinwoo drinks the poison, so the system detects it as a harmful substance and detoxifies it. This is a complete success, as Jinwoo's muscles aren't damaged, and he now takes 20% less physical damage. Cerberus shows itself again, and lands a devastating attack on Jinwoo. Jinwoo proclaims that he can still move though, and we see that the 3-minute timer on the monster's rage skill is over. The effects wear off, so the damage Jinwoo did to its eye finally begins to hurt the beast. Jinwoo takes advantage by landing several attacks, and he seems to finally be doing damage. The beast nearly eats him alive, but Jinwoo just manages to stop it. He goes airborne, and the powerful monster once again slams him into the ground. Jinwoo finds himself in a terrible spot once again, as he has nearly lost all his health, and Cerberus is crushing him between his teeth. Jinwoo still finds the strength inside himself to fight back, and stabs the beast several times, even as it thrashes him around. Jinwoo keeps attacking, and uses all his strength on one final attack. This proves to be the final blow, as Cerberus comes crashing down, and a notification reveals that Jinwoo has just defeated Hell's Gatekeeper. Jinwoo levels up several times, and his wounds are healed. Eliminating the Gatekeeper gives Jinwoo the key to the demon's castle. Jinwoo assumes that it is what Cerberus was protecting, but he is then surprised by a mysterious notification. It's the formula for the Elixir of Life, and it requires 3 ingredients that can be found in the castle. His fight against Cerberus has helped him gauge his current strength, so Jinwoo realizes something. If he were to go into the demon's castle now, he would surely die. Jinwoo concludes that he can't do it now, but he promises to return soon. Afterwards, Jinwoo goes to visit his mother and wonders if he will really be able to cure his mother's eternal sleep disease. He doesn't have any of the 3 ingredients needed to make the Elixir of Life, but at least he knows where they are. However, trying to enter the castle at his current level would only lead to his death. That is why he must level up and become stronger. To help with this, Jinwoo decides to go with Yu on the 19 C rank raids he described earlier. Jinwoo only has one condition, but Yu is shocked when Jinwoo explains that the two of them must do the raids alone. It would just be the two of them, but Yu points out that C rank gates require that at least 8 team members enter. Jinwoo wants them to take Hung's strategy, so they will hire enough hunters to meet the quota. Yu is hesitant to agree, since it could be risky. Jinwoo points out that just the two of them defeating 19 raids would be incredibly impressive, and Yu's entire goal is to impress his father. Yu emphatically agrees, and declares that he will take care of everything. Elsewhere, Chae does some exercise by running around in circles, and takes a moment to replenish her body's vital fluids with some water. She tells the person stalking her to come out of hiding, so some guy named Yoon introduces himself. Elsewhere, Yu's father tells Yu that things have changed dramatically since the gates appeared 10 years ago. The world's infrastructure can't even operate anymore without the resources from the dungeons. Hunters are the only ones capable of retrieving these vital resources, so they are vital as well, and are overseen by the Hunters Association. The association is responsible for a lot of things, including managing the gates, but they are not the ones that benefit the most. The vast majority of the vital resources from the dungeons are collected by the guilds, so they have become extremely wealthy. The Hunters Guild, White Tiger Guild, Reaper Guild, Fame Guild, and the Knights Guild are the 5 largest guilds in the country. They have a monopoly on all dungeon-related profits, but Yu's father does not plan to allow that to continue. The establishment of their own guild is crucial to accomplishing his goal. Yu thinks about how risky it would be to hire an unknown S rank to be partner with his brother, but that could be fixed if his father chose him as the guild leader instead. At a park, Jinwoo does some running of his own, and he notices that any extra exercise he does is no longer counted. That cursed loot box he was offered before is no longer available. Jinwoo pulls out the normal loot box in the hopes that he will find something valuable, but he is disappointed when it only gives him a bingo card. Some time passes as Jinwoo continues training, but he realizes that the 3 points he is getting don't really change much anymore since he is a higher level. Yu still has a lot to prepare before they can enter the C-rank dungeons, but Jinwoo realizes something. If he can enter the penalty zone again, then he might be able to fight the centipede he encountered before. Jinwoo realizes that the fight might be harder than he thinks, and there's no guarantee that he will be able to get experience points from it. Just then, Jinwoo receives a notification for him to join a D-rank mission. It's from the Hunters Association though, so this means he won't be able to fight alone. At some dojo, Songchi finishes up teaching some kid a lesson. The kid wishes he would have fought Songchi at his best, but Songchi points out that he can't change the fact that he only has one arm now. Songchi gets a notification to join a raid, but the kid wonders why he doesn't just retire already. Songchi has some pretty terrible memories and is missing a pretty important part of his body, so the kid apologizes for making him feel bad. Songchi explains that his best years are behind him, but he would like to spend his remaining years contributing to society. Elsewhere, we find a kid playing while her cowardly father Kim watches her. He receives the notification as well and determines that he now has his next raid. His wife reminds him that he barely survived his last raid, and she would like for him to consider doing something else. Kim reminds her that their kid will be starting school soon, so they need the money. He assures her that everything will be fine though, since the Hunters Association doesn't send low-ranked hunters into dangerous missions. The last time was the only exception, so this whole family says how much they love each other. Elsewhere, Beck is furious about having to do a pointless interview. He gets even more upset when Mr. Choi tries to flatter him, but he calms down when Choi points out that he was the most suitable person for the job. The reason why Choi called him to his office was to inform him that Yujin Construction is starting their own guild. Beck already knows all this, so he demands that Choi tell him what he's really there for. In Juhei's room, her mother tells her to give up on being a hunter. Juhei is a B-rank hunter, but her mother still thinks she will just get in everyone's way. She wants Juhei to just come home, but this enrages Juhei, and she declares that her mother needs to stop trying to run her life. Juhei declares that she can make her own decisions, and she proves it by hanging up on her. Juhei agrees that she might be getting in the way, but she would still like to try and get better. Just then, we see that she also received a notification about the D-rank raid. Back at the office, Chae passes by Beck, and she tells Choi that she was approached by a scout. He was from Eugen Construction, and they want her to join them as their guildmaster. She of course declined the offer, but she is curious about what he spoke to Beck about. Beck is hanging out at a bar, and he thinks back to the conversation. Jeju Island has been sealed off since the failed raid, and people are trying to forget about the terror it represents. Mr. Choi is fawned over as the weapon of humanity, but he can never forget about Jeju Island or what happened there. He plans to clear the island in the near future, and in order to do so, he needs Beck and the others on the same page. They need to get stronger, gather allies, and sway public opinion. That is why he arranged the interview and had Chahae start training new hunters. Choi reminds Beck that he left something on that island as well, and Beck has a memory of losing his old friends. In some dark place, a guy pleads for people to be eliminated. At Jinwoo's house, Gina is surprised by how busy Jinwoo has been. The old Jinwoo needed to recover for weeks after every gate, so she wonders if all his training is paying off. Jinwoo casually heads off to a mission without his stuff, and she is worried because he's acting like he's just making a casual trip to the store. Elsewhere, Sangchi thinks about how he is a swordsman, but his awakened ability has nothing to do with physical power. The martial arts he spent decades training are useless inside of a dungeon. His magic-focused powers make his sword useless against magical beasts. Just then, he runs into Jinwoo, and he points out how different he looks. Jinwoo doesn't have a good explanation for why his leg reappeared, so Sangchi assumes that a high-rank healer must have found him that day. Sangchi wasn't as lucky as too much time had passed for his injury to be healed. They arrive at the gate and are surprised to find that it's a reunion. Kim is ashamed to face them, but Sangchi determines that it makes sense after what he did. 5 of the survivors from that terrible day have been reunited, so he wonders what's going on. It's been a really long time since Juhei has seen Jinwoo, so she also notices how much he has changed. Just then, some creeps are dropped off, and they instantly take a liking to Juhei. Kong is there as well though, and he tells the guys to quiet down. It is explained to our group that they will be joined by prisoner substitute hunters. They are hunter convicts, and they will be participating to reduce their sentences. Sangchi can't believe that they're supposed to fight alongside criminals, but the woman assures them that they won't be a problem. They are short-staffed and they have no other choice. Just in case though, Kong will be going with them. He is a B rank, so if things go bad, then he will be able to handle the 3 C rank criminals with ease. Jinwoo recommends that Juhei sit this one out, but she refuses to let him go without her. The criminals are set free, and even they wonder if this is really a good idea. Kong tells them to shut up again and reminds them about what will happen if they act out. Kong introduces himself to the others and assures them that he will handle the criminals. Jinwoo allows Sangchi to take the lead in the raid, and he is grateful. Sangchi takes full responsibility for failing that day and credits Jinwoo for being the only reason that the 6 of them survived. He thanks Jinwoo on behalf of all the survivors, but Jinwoo doesn't need it. Kim doesn't object to Sangchi leading them, and Kong stares at Jinwoo for some reason. Everyone prepares to enter the gate, and Sangchi declares the start of the raid. Inside the dungeon, the prisoners are actually doing a good job wiping out some goblins. Sangchi wonders who the real beasts are, and demonstrates his own power. The group of goblins is eventually wiped out, and Sangchi is impressed by how much stronger Jinwoo has gotten. Even Juhei points out how Jinwoo hasn't gotten hurt yet, and she hopes that no one ends up needing her to heal them. Sangchi is still amazed, as even Jinwoo's aura is different. Kong has them move forward, but they find a split in the path. The dungeon has been much easier than they expected, so they determine that it should be fine to split up. They will be taking on a bit more risk, but they will be able to clear the dungeon faster. Jinwoo is able to sense that the dungeon boss is down the path on the left, but he doesn't tell anyone. He hasn't been leveling up much from the weak goblins, so Jinwoo requests that his group go down the left path. They split up, but Kong oddly stares at Jinwoo. Kim's group member is the other coward, and Kim decides that they will have to apologize to Jinwoo for abandoning him on the first raid. They are sure that he won't accept their apology, but Kim determines that he must try if he wants to continue being a hunter. Down the other path, the prisoners easily wipe out another group of goblins. Kong strangely asks if they will be able to do the same against humans, and they point out that it would make no difference. A look into the past shows that Kong was told that some guy's daughter was assaulted by 3 men. His daughter took her own life afterwards, but this guy was furious since the 3 guys would be set free from prison in just a few years. To make things worse, they are hunters, and hunters are allowed to participate in raids to reduce their sentences. This is incredibly unfair since his daughter will never get to come home. The man brought 3 million yuan and offered to give it to Kong if he eliminates the 3 prisoners. Kong is absolutely crazy as he now tells the prisoners what he will tell the inspectors when he leaves the dungeon without them. He will say that the prisoners were eliminated by a pack of 100 goblins. Kim continues down his path, but he is shocked to find that it attaches to Kong's path, and he finds Kong massacring the prisoners. Kong tells the prisoner that he was told to make them suffer, but he is interrupted by Kim. The cold-blooded Kong eliminates the last prisoner and decides that he will have to change his plans as he makes his way towards Kim. Jinwoo thinks about how Kong saw him at the hospital, and he just hopes that he doesn't remember him. Just then they hear screaming, and they rush to find the dead prisoners. Kang has been eliminated as well, and Jinwoo is shocked when he sees Kim in bad shape. Juhei heals him, but Songchi can tell that this was not the work of a magical beast. The weapon used was too sharp, and whoever used it avoided finishing him off multiple times. Kim has given up on surviving, but Jinwoo reminds him that he has a family. Jinwoo demands that he stay alive, otherwise he won't be able to keep blaming him. Kim uses his last breath to apologize to Jinwoo, and he passes away. Just then, Kong tries to eliminate Juhei, but Jinwoo stops him. Kong is impressed with how fast he is, and Songchi realizes that Kong is responsible for the massacre. Songchi is shocked since Kong is part of the Hunters Association, but Kong just wants to tell them his plan. Instead of blaming the goblins, Kong will say that the prisoners eliminated all the other hunters. He will then say that they tried to take him out, but they couldn't do that, which will be why he was the lone survivor. Songchi holds Jinwoo back as he doesn't believe he can take on Kong. Songchi will fight him instead, but he thinks about how Kong is a B rank, one whole level above him. Juhei gives him a strength buff, and Songchi tries to use his sword skills to take Kong down. Kong manages to avoid even being touched once, and he commends Songchi for knowing his stuff. Jinwoo analyzes the situation and can tell that Songchi is managing to hold his own, but he isn't fast enough to win. Kong manages to land a devastating blow, but he gets annoyed when Juhei quickly heals Songchi. Kong decides to take her out first, but Songchi stops him. Kong underestimated the old man, so Songchi explains that he has trained S-rank hunters before. His blade is outmatched, but Kong points out that the powers Songchi has been given have their limits. There is no chance a mage type like him can defeat an assassin type, so Kong brings him near death. Juhei is too frightened to heal him, so Kong prepares to end Songchi's life. Songchi uses his fire ability, but Kong is just too quick. He realized that Songchi used his sword to make him lower his guard against magic. Songchi was waiting until Kong tried to end his life to surprise him with a fire blast. Kong saw right through his plan though, and Songchi will now pay with his life. Just then, Jinwoo finally steps in to stop the fight. Kong demands to know who he is, so Jinwoo explains that he's simply an E-rank hunter. Kong doesn't believe him, since he would need incredible reaction speed to stop the attack he just used on Songchi. Kong can tell that Jinwoo is hiding his power, and determines that he had a second awakening. The others are shocked, and Kong just now remembers Jinwoo from the hospital. The mana reader only read 10 at the time, so Kong thinks that the second awakening must have come after that. This doesn't make sense though, as it doesn't explain why Jinwoo was able to survive the double dungeon. Kong determines that it actually doesn't matter, so he prepares to eliminate Jinwoo. Jinwoo wants to know what happened just now, so Kong explains that he was just carrying out justice by taking out the prisoners. Jinwoo couldn't care less about them, but he wants to know why he eliminated Kim and Kang. Jinwoo points out that Kong could have done it quickly, but he didn't. Instead, Kong seemed to have tortured and toyed with them. Another look back to when Kong spoke with the father shows Kong explaining that he has received huge offers to join the largest guilds. However, he chooses to work for peanuts in the Hunters Association. The reason he has chosen this path is because he finds people much more fun to kill than beasts. A fight breaks out between Kong and Jinwoo, and the two spectators are amazed by their blinding speed. Kong can tell that they have practically the same build, but he determines that he has much more experience fighting high-ranked opponents. Kong uses this experience to take control of the fight, but he is shocked when Jinwoo asks him to be a little less bloodthirsty. It's too late though, as Jinwoo's system has taken notice. The system, just like last time, informs Jinwoo that there are people present that want to eliminate him. Jinwoo is then once again given a quest to eliminate his opponents. Jinwoo is engulfed by a dark power, but Kong is confused since he thinks he should have the advantage in this fight. Jinwoo instantly attacks, and Kong is shocked when he realizes that he has been poisoned. The two continue fighting, but Kong has something special to show him as well, and he disappears. He explains that this is the stealth skill. It conceals the sight, sound, and even his smell. Only a tiny fraction of hunters can obtain this skill, and no one knows he has it. Kong manages to hurt Jinwoo, and he tells the others to stay back and wait for their turn. Kong is certain that Jinwoo won't be able to do much now with an injured leg, but he is shocked when Jinwoo instantly heals himself. Kong is in disbelief since he has never heard of a combat hunter who could also use healing magic. Jinwoo is completely unpredictable, and this makes him very dangerous. Jinwoo has seriously changed, as he explains that he just lost another one of his emotions, and now he doesn't even need to get angry to kill filth like Kong. Kong realizes that Jinwoo has taken human lives before, and Kim is shocked to hear this. He determines that Jinwoo has probably had to make some tough decisions in a short amount of time, and that is why his appearance was not the only thing that changed. Kong moves in to continue attacking, but he is shocked when Jinwoo is able to track him just by sensing his bloodlust. Kong still has a trick up his sleeve, but everything stops when Jinwoo activates his murderous intent skill. Kong is surrounded by darkness, and he is stunned when Jinwoo's blade pierces his chest. As Kong's life fades away, he points out that he and Jinwoo are the same. They are both killing machines, and the only reason why he is dying is because he was simply weaker than Jinwoo. Kong still wants to know what Jinwoo is. He has assassin skills, healing, and debuffs, and Kong has never heard of someone like that. Jinwoo doesn't tell him anything, but Kong points out that Jinwoo was able to eliminate him, so his E-ranked act is over. Jinwoo decides to tell him something, and just explains that he is someone that gets stronger with every fight. Kong can tell that Jinwoo will keep getting stronger and stronger, but he has a warning for him. If he goes too far searching for more and more power, that same power might take control of him. Jinwoo's quest is complete and he gets some rewards. Jinwoo has noticed that the stronger he gets, the more he feels like something inside of him is falling apart. His friends thank him for saving them, but Jinwoo tells them to leave the dungeon. They are shocked to hear that Jinwoo plans to clear the dungeon alone, but they realize that he is strong enough to do it. Outside, Woo is shocked to hear that Kong was killing in secret. He is shown the only survivors of the mission Kong was on, and he's surprised to find that one of them is Jinwoo. He apologizes for what happened, but more importantly, he wants to know who was the one that defeated Kong. Jinwoo realizes that he won't be able to keep his secret anymore, which means he will have to cancel his deal with you. Just before he admits to everything, Song-chi lies and says that he was the one that eliminated Kong. Song-chi is only a C rank, so he explains that he only won the fight because he had the help of a healer. Woo is skeptical as Kong was a top B rank hunter, but he accepts Song-chi's answer. Just then, Jinwoo reminds himself that he cannot get overconfident. He couldn't tell before, but Woo is an A rank hunter. He can sense his immense power now, and he can tell that at his current strength, he wouldn't stand a chance against this guy in a fight. Song-chi determines that Jinwoo has a good reason for keeping a secret, so he tells Jinwoo that this is just him paying him back for what happened in the double dungeon. That night, everything has been settled, and Juhei wonders if Jinwoo remembers the stone he gave her. Jinwoo and Juhei take a little walk while they discuss how much Jinwoo has changed. Juhei is the complete opposite of him, as she hasn't changed at all, and she realizes that she is too timid to be a hunter. She should really be participating in A-rank raids, but she chooses the lowest rank ones instead. It's not terrible since it allowed her to meet Jinwoo, and she began healing him. He would always get hurt, but she can never forget how his eyes always had that determined look in them. Juhei returns the crystal he gave her, and reveals that she will be retiring. She will be going back to live with her parents, but the two agree to hang out if they ever see each other again. A look back shows that Woo was very skeptical of Jinwoo. He didn't believe that an E-rank like him could defeat the B-rank Kong. Jinwoo was already found to not have had a reawakening though, so Woo just let him be. He did however issue him a warning. Hung's brother Dong-soo has heard that Jinwoo and Yu were the only survivors after his brother was eliminated, so he may be coming after them. This is extremely shocking since Dong-soo is an S-rank hunter. Dong-soo likely doesn't care about all the facts, and he is the type to be upset just because Jinwoo survived and his brother didn't. Unfortunately for Jinwoo, the law is powerless against S-rank hunters, and they have the potential to bring forth either a miracle or a calamity. One of these monsters is after Jinwoo, so Woo recommends that he get his family and leave the country. Jinwoo just determines that this is another reason to have to become stronger, since if he doesn't then he won't survive. Jinwoo arrives to meet with Yu, but he's very confused by what he sees. Yu explains that this is their strike team. He prioritized finding people who are qualified hunters, but have reasons why they can't work and are struggling to make a living. Jinwoo points out that he hired a high schooler, but she points out that she is a qualified hunter just like them. She gets discouraged though when Jinwoo figures out that she's an E rank with no raiding experience. It doesn't actually matter though, as Jinwoo informs them all that they will be waiting outside while he and Yu take care of everything. They will all be getting paid 3 million yuan each, which is a great deal since they won't actually be doing anything. The only thing is that they can't tell anyone about it, otherwise they will have to pay back 10 times the amount they were given. Jinwoo received a stealth rune for defeating Kong, and he uses it to learn the stealth skill. Yu is ready to go, and Jinwoo is shocked to see that he has put on some more insanely expensive armor. Jinwoo proves how illogical it would be to wear that armor, and demands that he take it off. Jinwoo allows him to at least keep the helmet though, and the two enter the portal. The other hunters think they are crazy for going into a C-rank dungeon alone, but they don't really care since the contract is already finalized. Jinwoo's sister wonders where her friend Song-yi is, and we see that she's the high schooler on Jinwoo's strike team. The hunters discuss how a full strike team would take 2 hours to complete this raid, so when they see Yu appear out of the portal, they assume that they just ran away. Of course, they are shocked to see that the gate is closing after they exit, which means that they have cleared the dungeon. The hunters stare in disbelief, but Jinwoo just tells them to hurry as he wants to go to another portal. Their goal is to hit 3 raids in one day, but the hunters are all still shocked that they even completed one. During another raid, Jinwoo destroys a bunch of goblins while Yu finishes up mining. Jinwoo finishes up the goblins and levels up. The next raid is a success as well, and Jinwoo levels up even more. Days pass and the two just keep clearing dungeons by themselves. They begin to face stronger and stronger monsters, but you can tell that Jinwoo is getting much stronger as well. Jinwoo's stealth skill is really useful, and his dash skill levels up. He earns a couple more skills, and finds that they're really powerful when he uses them on a wolf. Jinwoo has a bunch of new skills now, but not enough mana to use them for very long. He takes a potion for this, and decides that he will focus on increasing his intellect ability going forward. He also decides against returning to the Demon Castle right now, since he would consider himself to only be somewhere between a B rank and an A rank hunter. Just then, the system reveals that he has reached the required level for a job change quest. Elsewhere, the manager of another guild named An is told that there's a strike team spending double the market rate for the rights to buy some C rank gates. Their leader is the rich kid Yu, but their team seems to have just been thrown together. An recognizes the name Jinwoo from the double dungeon incident, and he gets a feeling that there's something interesting going on. Elsewhere, Jinwoo and Yu emerge from another portal victorious. Jinwoo wonders if Song-yi has some kind of eye problem, but she says it's nothing. Back with An, his assistant is shocked to hear that he thinks that Jinwoo has reawakened. Jinwoo managed to survive 3 major disasters. There was a large body count every time, but he was always among the survivors. Reawakening is the only way this could be possible, so An heads off to scout the promising rookie. An arrives at the portal Jinwoo is in, but he is shocked to see that it looks like some kind of picnic. Song-yi explains that the area is off limits, and must point out to them that she is a hunter. She admits to being part of the strike team, and An is shocked to realize that Jinwoo left the entire group behind to enter the dungeon himself. An thinks Jinwoo might be his biggest find yet, but he surprisingly just leaves. The guys emerge from the gate, and Jinwoo reveals to Yu that he's busy tomorrow. He won't be able to go on any raids, so they hold off on a few of them. We then get a glimpse of a very strange scene, and Choi wakes up from the nightmare. He takes a look at some paperwork, and determines that it's almost time for the reconnaissance mission on Jeju Island. Jinwoo finishes up his day of raiding, and An introduces himself as the manager of the White Tigers Guild. The White Tigers Guild is one of the country's best, and they're always on the lookout for promising new talent. An thankfully gets right to the point, and offers to pay Jinwoo double what Yujin Construction is paying him if he joins his guild. An is confident that an E rank could never reject this offer, but he is surprised when Jinwoo wants to know how much the White Tiger Guild headquarters is worth. It's worth 50 billion, so the guy is shocked when Jinwoo reveals that the construction company is giving him a building worth 30 billion. Jinwoo shows him proof, but An reveals that he isn't qualified to offer them their 50 billion building. Jinwoo leaves as he has lost interest, but he does want to know how An heard about him. Jinwoo strikes fear into this guy by making sure that he wasn't snooping around, and he disappears. An realizes that Jinwoo used stealth to cut him, and he is shocked when he thinks about how Jinwoo is a reawakened with the stealth ability. Jinwoo tells him not to turn around, so An explains that he was just investigating who is buying up so many gates. Jinwoo demands to know who else knows about him, but An explains that it's just him and one of his subordinates. Jinwoo warns that if people start hearing about him, they will be the first people he suspects. An agrees to keep everything a secret, so Jinwoo reveals himself again. Jinwoo has to keep buying the gates for a while, but this causes problems for the guild since they need to train recruits. Jinwoo agrees to let them buy 3 gates from him, but An is shocked when Jinwoo tells him that they will have to pay 300 million yuan for each. The guy begs him to lower it to 200 million, and Jinwoo surprisingly agrees. The two make the deal for 3 gates, but their interaction is not over yet, as Jinwoo wants to give him something. He tells An to close his eyes and open his mouth, so Jinwoo gives him a potion to heal the cut on his face. Jinwoo reveals that he trusts An, but he reminds him to keep his mouth shut. An's assistant wonders how things went, and An tells him that he thinks that Jinwoo might be an even bigger deal than he thought. The next day, Yu confirms that they have received the 600 million yuan. Yu points out that they were going to cancel those gates anyway, so he can't believe that Jinwoo managed to get so much for them. Yu wants to know more, but Jinwoo explains that it's a trade secret. Back with the White Tiger Guild, An realizes that Jinwoo scammed him, as several C-rank gates have appeared, and they are all selling for less than 70 million yuan. Jinwoo sends him a message stating that they're even now for An spying on him. An realizes that Jinwoo is not someone to be messed with, but he's glad to have gotten his contact information. Elsewhere, we see that Jinwoo is on a road trip as he goes to find out what this job change quest is all about. Jinwoo arrives in some forest far away from civilization because he has no clue what to expect from the job change quest. He has encountered 2 dungeons that were accessible with keys, and the only quests he has been forced to take immediately were the penalty and the emergency ones. This job quest one is optional though, and he has even been given time to decide. Jinwoo assumes that it's an important event that will make him stronger by earning skills best suited to his job. So he decides to accept, and a gate opens. Jinwoo just now remembers that he didn't do his daily quest and decides to do it later. He declares that the real game starts now, and he enters the gate. Elsewhere, Yu has a meal with his father, and they are met by his brother. In the dungeon, Jinwoo finds that he won't be able to use potions or his full recovery. He won't be able to leave until the quest is complete either, so he will have to be very careful. Just then, Jinwoo hears something approaching, and he prepares himself. It turns out to be an armor-type beast, and Jinwoo quickly attacks it. He is shocked to find that his attack did nothing, and he is caught off guard by the monster's power. Jinwoo lands another attack, but it's no good. He dodges several attacks, and declares that he has fought more powerful creatures with even harder exteriors. Jinwoo then uses his bare hands and tears the monster apart. Jinwoo isn't too happy though, since he pretty much wasted one use of his fatal strike skill. He can't be upset for too much longer though, as he has company. Back with Yu, his father wonders how Jungsung's efforts to establish the guild are going. He has heard that every S rank he sent an offer to ended up declining. This is true, but Jungsung explains that he's in talk with hunters from other countries. Yu realizes that this will be more competition for him, and he is shocked when Jungsung reveals that he knows he has been working on something in secret. He knows that Yu has been trying to establish himself by buying up C-rank raids, but he warns Yu not to get in his way. Yu doesn't say anything, but he is sure that Jungsung wouldn't be talking this way if he knew how powerful his partner is. Back in the dungeon, Jinwoo is putting in work, destroying the monsters. He determines that he will have to rest soon, but he senses something and eliminates another monster. He can't believe that it was using stealth, and on top of that, a mage that can use light magic has appeared. This is all pretty strange, as Jinwoo feels like the armor on the first monster, combined with the skills of these monsters, makes him feel like he's revisiting his old battles. The quest is much tougher than he expected, but he once again analyzes the situation mid-battle. He goes over what it will take to defeat each one of his enemies. The armored one won't take damage without enough strength, and the stealthy one can't be detected without enough perception. The mage needs to be countered with intellect, but Jinwoo hasn't increased that stat very much. His fatigue is building up quickly, so he will have to end the fight soon. Elsewhere, we see that Choi meets with the other hunters as they are ready to head to Jeju Island. Back in the dungeon, Jinwoo managed to defeat the monsters. He finds that he has received a chest plate and realizes that he hasn't done much with gear yet. Jinwoo puts some on and is glad to see that it can go invisible and it doesn't restrict his movement. Jinwoo's level has gone up, and he also has plenty of golden items. His fatigue has recovered as well, so he continues through the dungeon. Jinwoo opens a giant door, and the gust of wind that comes out of it gives him the chills. Inside is some kind of throne room, and he is shocked by what awaits him. The sound he hears and the presence he feels makes his entire body remember something. This pressure he feels is on the same level of what he felt during the double dungeon. Jinwoo is in disbelief since all that intensity is coming from one opponent. This enemy is a knight commander named Igris. His name is in red, and Jinwoo determines that this guy is nothing like any enemy he has ever fought before. Igris instantly attacks with intense speed, and Jinwoo is shocked to see that this guy chops through pillars like they are tiny tree branches. This monster quickly overpowers Jinwoo with its next attack, and Jinwoo has no chance of keeping up with him. He gets tossed around, and Jinwoo is in disbelief at how much of an insane monster this guy is. Jinwoo shows immense speed of his own as he throws a flurry of attacks, but his blade does nothing against the knight's armor. Jinwoo just barely manages to block an attack, and he gets tossed back. He determines that they are equal when it comes to speed, but Igris is much more powerful than him. This guy is extremely dangerous, and Jinwoo wonders if he has any chance of beating him. Jinwoo doubts that he can win without a weapon, but he can only think of one way to deal any damage through the armor Igris wears. Jinwoo puts away his dagger, and the knight surprisingly throws aside his weapons as well. Elsewhere, Choi calls the chairman and thanks him for approving the operation. The chairman tells him to be careful, but Choi is already fully aware of the danger. He knows that this expedition is simply to assess threat levels. They will just prod the enemy and see how they respond. Choi is as diligent as ever, and he explains that it's because the last raid on Jeju Island never really ended for him. Back in the dungeon, Igris wastes no time in crushing Jinwoo. He tosses Jinwoo again like he's just a toy, and he lands a barrage of punches on him. Jinwoo gets sent through a wall, and he is shocked by his opponent. He was blocking all the punches, but he still feels like he lost 500 HP. Jinwoo is glad that he put armor on, since he would surely not be alive right now if he hadn't. Jinwoo concedes that he can't outpower this guy, so he boosts his speed instead. Jinwoo flies around him and manages to finally push him back. He tries several more attacks afterwards, but it soon becomes very clear that he won't be able to catch him again. The guy tosses him around even more, and Jinwoo notices that the skill he used also increased his defense. He's still getting destroyed by this guy as he gets sent back into the room, but Jinwoo continues to fight back. His efforts pay off as Jinwoo uses a spectacular move to land a kick right on Igris' head. Jinwoo realizes that this might actually be bad for him, and the knight attacks with even more ferocity. Jinwoo just continues to take an absolute beating as Igris tosses him onto the throne and stares down at him. Back home, Gina leaves some dinner for Jinwoo and goes to study. We then also get a look at Jinwoo's mother at the hospital. Back with Jinwoo, he's in really bad shape as the knight takes his sword and prepares to end Jinwoo's life. He ruthlessly goes in for the finishing blow, but Jinwoo shockingly stops him with one hand. Jinwoo declares that he hasn't lost yet and pushes Idris back. He summons his blade and manages to stab the knight through the opening in his helmet. Jinwoo then uses all the power he has to push Idris back and pushes him up against the wall. The knight tries to use Jinwoo's blade, but Jinwoo points out that his dagger doesn't change owners. It just goes back to his inventory where he can summon it again. Jinwoo sends his blade through the knight's skull, but the attack is too shallow. He determines that he has to go deeper, so he uses all the power he has left to push the blade further into the night. Jinwoo uses every fatal strike he has and lands the most powerful strike he has ever dealt. The knight has gone completely limp. Jinwoo removes his blade, and a notification reveals that he has won the fight. Jinwoo realizes that there was a huge gap between them in every category, and determines that him winning was really a fluke. If he made even just one mistake, he would have died. Jinwoo then receives 4 rewards. One is 1.5 million gold, and another is the S-rank helmet that Igris wore. The key to the demon's castle was S-rank, but Jinwoo has never had gear that was this high quality before. Amazingly, the helmet boosts his stats and reduces damage taken by 15%. Jinwoo also receives a rune stone for the skill called the Ruler's Hand. The final reward is an instant teleportation stone. It can't go in his inventory, so he wonders why he would be given one right now. It wouldn't make sense to be given one after clearing the dungeon, so Jinwoo wonders if the job change quest isn't actually over yet. Just then, Jinwoo is shocked to see several portals open. A notification pops up and reveals that the job change quest actually begins now. Jinwoo is instructed to survive as long as possible so he can earn advancement points. These points are required so that he can be assigned to a higher class, but Jinwoo has no clue what that means. A timer pops up and Jinwoo realizes that he will be facing infinite waves of enemies. He's glad to see that his opponents aren't as strong as Igris, since he is sure he would have been overwhelmed in mere seconds. Jinwoo is sure that he can handle these guys, but can't help but point out that there are a whole bunch of them. Jinwoo is fearless though, and charges right at them. We then watch as the other hunters fly off to Jeju Island. After some time, we return to see that Jinwoo is still fighting, as the gates just keep tossing out more enemies. The real goal of this quest is to last as long as possible, so Jinwoo uses his stealth skill. He decides to manage his mana so he can buy himself as much time as possible. Jinwoo's plan is completely ruined though, when a mage breaks his stealth. Jinwoo goes right back to fighting, but things are even worse than before, since he won't be able to use stealth or murderous intent anymore. Jinwoo takes his sword right to the back, and he is shocked when he realizes that it's only been 5 minutes. Things are getting far too dangerous, and Jinwoo determines that he won't be able to continue. He hates to do it, but he decides to teleport out of the dungeon. Before he can though, a monster knocks the stone out of his hand. Jinwoo's in real trouble now, as the huge group of enemies descend on him. Jinwoo continues to get thrashed about by the monsters, and there is no way out now that he has lost the teleportation stone. The only way he will be able to survive is if he defeats them all, so Jinwoo gets back to fighting. It's a pretty dire situation though, as his stamina is at its limit, and he can't use stealth or murderous intent. Of course, our boy never gives up, and he is determined to survive. Jinwoo continues to fight for his life, and he thinks about how he has lived his entire life at the bottom. He could never give up on striving for more, and this moment is no different. Jinwoo's knuckles are all messed up, and his heart begins to race. Just then, the monsters start talking. The voices talk about how Jinwoo's nickname is the weakest hunter of all mankind. As he gets hit several times, the voices mock him for once having to go to the hospital after going through an E-rank gate. Just then, the imaginary Songchi and Juhei appear, and they tell Jinwoo to stop forcing himself to fight. Jinwoo's younger self appears after that, and he tells Jinwoo that he has come a long way already, so that should be good enough. His old self can't even recognize the new Jinwoo, as he is much taller and in much better shape. However, he explains that the changes were only on the surface. Deep down, Jinwoo is still weak, and he is about to die again. The old Jinwoo declares that Jinwoo will always just be an E-rank hunter, a dreamer who never learned his place in the world. Jinwoo manages to avoid some attacks, but he can't manage for long as he gets crushed. Young Jinwoo tells him that this is what he deserves, since he was so quick to think that he was ready for this kind of fight. These words begin to convince Jinwoo, as he wonders if he really hasn't changed. Just then, a notification reveals that the time is up on his daily quest, and he will have to be penalized for not completing it. Luckily, this means that he will be taken to the penalty area. Jinwoo now realizes that luck really is a factor in skill, and young Jinwoo determines that whoever is behind all this doesn't want him to die just yet. He says goodbye, and Jinwoo is taken to the penalty zone. When he arrives, he is grateful that this penalty saved his life. Jinwoo wonders though if it really was luck, or if it was the system keeping him alive. Jinwoo decides not to overthink it, and he uses some potions to recover his stamina. Unfortunately, a notification explains that if he is too seriously injured, potions won't restore his HP. He will either have to wait to heal naturally, or try and get restored by leveling up. Just then, a bunch of those monsters from before appear, and Jinwoo declares that as long as he doesn't die, any pain he feels will only make him stronger. Back home, Gino notices that Jinwoo hasn't returned, and she wonders if he got a girlfriend. She determines that that would be impossible, and she just hopes that he will remember to be there for her guardian teacher meeting. Back with Jinwoo, he has defeated the monsters he was once terrified of, and has recovered his health from leveling up. He has 10 minutes left in the penalty zone, so he uses it to buy the Night Killer dagger. This weapon is perfect, as it deals 25% more damage to armor type beasts. Jinwoo uses the rune he got from fighting Idris, and it gives him the active skill called Ruler's Hand. Surprisingly, it doesn't use any mana, and it allows him to affect objects without touching them directly. He remembers Idris using this on his sword, but Jinwoo tests it, and finds that he can't move large objects yet. Time is almost up, so Jinwoo declares that he will have to rely on a little bit of luck to carry him to the end. Jinwoo gets teleported back to the dungeon, and he gets ready to fight again. Back with the other hunters, they're getting closer to Jeju Island. Choi is told that multiple sources of mana have been detected in the water, and Choi is shocked by what he sees. In the dungeon, Jinwoo is very pleased by how his Night Killer dagger is performing. He can't shake a strange feeling he is getting though. He keeps killing the beasts, but it doesn't actually feel like he is. That isn't all, as Jinwoo is concerned about the mages who have been casting spells without actually attacking. Just then, Jinwoo realizes that they are responsible for opening the gates and summoning the knights. He decides to target the mages, and finds that defeating one of them makes some of the knights fall apart. Knowing this, he targets the rest of them, and takes control of the fight. The mages do their best to hide behind the knights, but Jinwoo manages to take out another one, leaving 3 mages left standing. These tricky last 3 combine their power to summon a golem, so Jinwoo makes his way up to higher ground. He manages to disable it for a moment, and thinks about how the dumb mages must have thought that one strong monster was better than several small ones. Jinwoo points out that this is wrong though, since having fewer targets makes it easier to go after the mages. Jinwoo finally manages to wipe out all the mages, but the golem is still standing. Our boy Jinwoo has become so strong that he uses sheer force to destroy the golem. With that, all the monsters are defeated, and a notification reveals that he has finished the job change quest. Now he will be able to switch to a more advanced class with the points he earned, based on his performance during the quest. He doesn't get to choose apparently, and notifications begin to pop up with several messages. They state that whatever path the player takes, it is littered with corpses and the stench of blood remains. Furthermore, the player craves great power, and blazes his own trail without relying on others. It mentions how a shadow army will follow the player's orders, and Jinwoo is shocked to see that his new job class will be Necromancer. This doesn't make sense to him at all, since he hasn't put anything into his intellect stat. Necromancers are usually a magic type class that summon undead monsters as servants. Jinwoo though has an assassin's build. His main stat is strength, and all his skills fit that style of fighting. If he gets a class like Necromancer, then all the effort he put into his current build will be wasted. Just then, Jinwoo is relieved to see that he can reject it. He declines, but the system points out that Necromancer is a hidden class, and it asks him again if he really wants to decline it. Jinwoo gives it a second thought, and wonders if it being a hidden class means it has some kind of special power. Jinwoo wishes he had an example to compare it to, and he realizes that it's pretty similar to the summoning magic the mages were using. Encountering them seems like too much of a coincidence, so Jinwoo wonders if this job change quest was pre-arranged by the system. The idea of summoning beasts like the mages piques his interest. The mages weren't very strong on their own, but Jinwoo knows that he is. There is no rule that says necromancers can't fight on the front lines, which is what he would do. Jinwoo determines that if classes work like stats do, then as he levels up, his skills in necromancy will too. This means that this shadow army the system talked about will likely become stronger as a result. Jinwoo gets excited about the idea of no longer solo leveling, and he accepts the necromancer class. Just then, a dark power bursts from beneath his feet, and the system starts awarding him points based on his performance. Jinwoo did amazingly well during the quest, so his total advancement points exceed the class threshold. The dark power erupts even more as Jinwoo begins to float, and the advancement is soon complete. Jinwoo is then shocked when he sees that he already moved on from the Necromancer class all the way to the Shadow Monarch class. He also receives unique class skills and 10 ability points. Jinwoo wonders if the quest is finally over, but he begins to hear sounds that seem to be coming from people that are in pain. Jinwoo can now see a dark shadow coming from the monsters, and he's able to use his skill called Shadow Extraction on them. First, he must designate a command word, so he chooses Arise. As soon as he says it, Jinwoo is ecstatic to see the first members of his Shadow Army. Aside from Shadow Extraction, Jinwoo also has a skill called Shadow Storage. Shadow Extraction lets him drain some of his mana to create Shadow Soldiers. Shadow Storage allows him to hold on to those Shadow Soldiers and summon them whenever he wants. The only thing Jinwoo needs to be mindful of is that the extraction can fail depending on the strength of the target and the time since death. There is more to this ability, as Jinwoo sees that he summoned both the knights and the mages, and they come in different ranks too. Jinwoo gets excited when he wonders if he can even extract S-rank shadows, and if its strength reflects how strong they were in real life. Jinwoo rushes to Igris and finds that extraction is possible. There is a limit to the number of extractions and how many he can store, so Jinwoo releases 11 soldiers. Jinwoo turns back to the Knight Commander Igris the Blood Red and says the word Arise. Igris' shadow begins to emerge, but a large burst of power pushes Jinwoo back and the extraction fails. Jinwoo only has 2 more tries left, but his second attempt fails as well. Back at the Hunters Association, Go reminds Woo that hunters can never grow their power unless they undergo a reawakening. That is why they train their combat techniques and gather allies. Back with Jinwoo, he speaks to Igris and reminds him that he is a warrior. Cutting down foes with his sword is his life purpose, and Jinwoo is sure that he doesn't want to just sit there and rust away. Jinwoo declares that if Igris needs someone to dedicate his sword to, then he should serve him. Jinwoo uses his last attempt and once again tells Igris to arise. A huge amount of power bursts from Igris' corpse, but this time it's different. Igris' shadow emerges, and Jinwoo is allowed to give his level 7 knight a name. Jinwoo honors the knight and gives him his old name Igris. At the same time, Go explains that reawakenings happen every day, and he hopes that this will bring forth a hunter that defies all expectations. In this moment, Igris and the rest of Jinwoo's shadow army kneel before him. Jinwoo is amazed by the sight and declares that they are all with him now. Back with the other hunters, they have finally arrived on Jeju Island. Choi is examining one of the red ants from the terrible raid, and he is shocked to see something that has never happened before. He declares that the monsters are evolving, and we see that the ant has grown wings. A while later, Jinwoo is awoken by his sister, who reminds him that he has to meet with her teacher. Gina can't even recognize her brother, and we see that Jinwoo has grown since we last saw him. Jinwoo just wants to look respectable in front of the teacher, but his new look has all the schoolgirls admiring him. Gina reminds Jinwoo that he doesn't have a girlfriend and offers to introduce him to some of her desperate friends. Jinwoo isn't interested in those hideous gargoyles, and he finally meets with the teacher. The teacher compliments Gina endlessly for being such a good role model to the other students, and even reveals that Gina's exam scores will get her into any medical school she wants. The teacher only has one concern. She wants to know if Jinwoo will allow Gina to become a hunter if she goes through an awakening. Jinwoo instantly says no, so the teacher has a secret request. Outside, Songyi is shocked to find Jinwoo waiting for her. He reveals that he's Gina's sister, but Songyi already knows what he wants to say. She declares that she won't be going back to school, no matter how much her teacher wants her to, and she definitely won't be quitting hunting. Jinwoo points out that she's only an E-rank hunter, and there's no way she can make a living hunting. Songyi is quick to point out that Jinwoo is also just an E-rank, but Jinwoo has had enough. He reveals that he actually isn't here to convince her to quit hunting, and he tells her to come with him. Elsewhere, Inspector Woo welcomes home the hunter Dong-soo. Dong-soo would rather be anywhere else than Japan, but he has important business to take care of. Woo wonders if he's here to meet with a certain 2 hunters, but Dong-soo is insulted by the question. He doesn't plan to just meet with them, he wants revenge. Dong-soo declares that he plans to do terrible things to Jinwoo and his friend, and he will do it inside of a dungeon where no one will know. Dong-soo tells Woo that him and his surveillance team can just pretend that they don't know about his plan. That is, unless weaklings like them want to try and stop him. Woo explains that his only job is to monitor hunters who may pose a risk to public safety, and the two men part ways. Back at the Hunters Association, we see that Choi has returned from Jeju Island, and they discovered something alarming. The red ants have developed wings and can now travel with them. They can only go a short distance right now, but if they evolve further, then they might even be able to leave the island. Their infestation could lead to a nationwide disaster, so Go decides that he will have to look into the matter. Back with Jin Woo, we see that he has brought Song-yi to a dungeon raid that was set up by An. It's actually a training exercise for some young hunters, and An has agreed to let Jin Woo and Song-yi participate. Their conversation is interrupted by the tank of the strike team, who is tired of waiting. His name is Kim Chu, and he's an A-rank tank. He is serving as the leader of the strike team for the training mission, but he's upset about having to babysit the E-ranks Jin Woo and Song-yi. Aside from the A-rank Kim Chu, there will be 5 B-ranks on the strike team and 2 C-ranks. We then learn that Jin Woo wanted to show Song-yi how brutal raids can be during the mission. He was hoping it would make her reconsider being a hunter, but he realizes that his plan might not go so well after seeing how many powerful hunters are on the strike team. If they succeed too easily, then it will completely defeat the purpose. Lee knows how strong Jin Woo really is, so he asks him to limit his participation so the rookies can get a good training session. Everyone heads into the dungeon, but Jin Woo instantly senses that something is wrong. To everyone's surprise, the dungeon portal changes color, and Jin Woo realizes what this means. He quickly grabs onto Song-yi and tries to get out of the dungeon. It's a struggle, so Jin Woo urgently instructs An to contact the primary strike team immediately. Jin Woo is pulled back into the portal, and we see that Baek is horrified to hear about what's happening. He is told that a C-rank gate has turned red. This should be impossible, so Baek decides that he must go there immediately. In the dungeon, everyone is shocked to see that the gate has disappeared and they're in a strange place. Kim Chu explains that it's all because of the red gate. Jin Woo reveals that unlike a typical gate, once you step through a red gate, it takes you to a dungeon completely isolated from the outside. No one can leave it until the boss is defeated or a dungeon break occurs. No one can even send help from the outside. That isn't all, as the magic beasts inside red gates are much stronger than normal. Just then, an attack comes flying at Song-yi's head, but we see that someone else collapses. A rookie is stunned and mesmerized as she sees that Jin Woo just managed to save Song-yi's life. The attackers turn out to be ice elves, and they attack from so far away that the average hunter wouldn't have been able to detect it. Jin Woo is no normal hunter, and he determines that the elves attack the weakest members of the strike team first. That was the guy that just got deleted, and Song-yi. These elves are pretty confident in themselves, but Jin Woo is furious. Song-yi asks about their opponent, so Jin Woo explains that because of the cruel nature of these elves, hunters call them something more befitting of demons. They call them Ice Slayers. Kim Chu realizes how dangerous this situation is, but he knows that he won't be able to protect everyone himself. Because of this, he decides to form a second group, but Jin Woo thinks this is strange. Kim Chu frames it as a way to raise their chance of survival and guarantees that anyone who follows him will make it out alive. However, Jin Woo knows that he just wants to leave some of them behind. Several members vow to follow Kim Chu, but he rejects one of the other hunters. Kim Chu refuses to accept the C-ranks into his group, and the same goes for Jin Woo and Song-yi. He explains that every day they spend in the dungeon, an hour passes on the outside. They might be inside the red gate for several months, so he doesn't want to waste any time looking after dead weight. Oddly, the other girl in the group asks to join the lower-ranked hunters. Kim Chu allows her to go with them, but calls her a fool and wonders if she just pities them. However, in reality, this girl realizes that not even Kim Chu was able to notice the arrow attack. Jin Woo was the only one who sensed it coming, so she quietly wonders if he's not really an E-rank. Jin Woo just ignores her, but she determines that he must be an A-rank or even higher. After the two groups part ways, Kim Chu finds the markings left by an ice bear. It's a terrifying sign, and the others realize that they just basically left the E-ranks to die. Those guys are in a terrible situation, but Kim Chu is confused by something else. That one girl is a B-rank, and they also have 2 C-ranks with them, so Kim Chu can't figure out why he assumed that the E-rank Jin Woo was their leader. Just then, their group is confronted by several bears, and Kim Chu instantly shows his value as a tank. A bear gets destroyed trying to attack him, and Kim Chu quickly ends its life. The battle isn't over, however, as several bears remain. Back with the other group, the girl named Park points out that there are claw marks all around them. They are clearly in bear territory, so she thinks that they should go back, but Jinwoo says that's exactly why they must keep going forward. If they really are in bear territory, it means that they will only have to worry about bears. That is much better than dealing with intelligent enemies like the ice elves. Park is amazed that Jinwoo was able to think so far ahead and apologizes to him. Jinwoo retrieves a coat for her, and everyone is stunned to see that he just used summoning magic. This is because even high-ranked hunters have trouble storing more than 2 or 3 low-level items. Jinwoo gets coats for them all, and Sang-yi wonders just who Jinwoo really is. Jinwoo doesn't reveal his true power and simply says that it's his fault for bringing her here. The least he can do is keep her safe, and all he asks is that she not ask him any questions about what he really is. Jinwoo will do what he must to keep everyone alive, but he tells the others not to ask any questions either about what they see. Just then, everyone is horrified as a bear approaches them, but Jinwoo tells everyone to remain calm. He then calmly changes his title to the Wolf Assassin. Outside, Beck arrives to find that the red gate is completely sealed. He doesn't believe that the hunters have much of a chance to survive and says that it will all depend on Kim Chu. Just then, An reveals that there's someone else that might prove to be an important factor. He says that the hunter's name is Jinwoo, and it's someone that caught his eye recently. Beck is not impressed when An reveals that Jinwoo is just an E rank, but An believes that Jinwoo may have reawakened. Unfortunately, he can't prove this, as it's not confirmed. Just then, Dong-soo arrives, and Beck is not pleased to see him at all. This is not Dong-soo's jurisdiction, as he's supposed to be in America right now, but Dong-soo has a question of his own. He wants to know why an E rank is in the gate of the White Tiger Guild. Beck is shocked when he realizes that he's after Jinwoo, and Dong-soo is annoyed to have come all this way just for his target to be stuck in some gate. Dong-soo assumes that Jinwoo will just lose his life in the Red Gate, but Beck thinks that the E rank is lucky. Being stuck in the Red Gate means that not even the powerful Dong-soo can do anything to him. The only question is if Jinwoo can somehow manage to survive the dangers of the Red Gate. Inside, all the hunters are stunned as Jinwoo stands victorious over a sea of defeated bears. Park can't help but break Jinwoo's only rule as she wonders just how powerful Jinwoo really is. That night, the group feasts on the bear meat. They haven't been getting attacked as much, so Sang-yi wonders if Jinwoo already defeated most of the bears. Park points out that there can still be a lot of them left in the bear den, so they must remain cautious. The girls are shocked, however, that even after all that fighting, Jinwoo has gone out to do more training. Park calls him a very strange man, and Sang-yi kind of agrees with her. Nearby, we see that Jinwoo has actually gone straight to the bear's den. Jinwoo is as serious as ever as he calls on his army to come out. Several undead soldiers are summoned, and Jinwoo explains that this will be their first job. He sends them after the bears, and an all-out battle breaks out. The bears prove to be worthy adversaries, but Jinwoo's army has plenty of firepower. Even when the bears manage to take down some soldiers, they just regenerate as they are undead. Artillery with high firepower, infantry that can regenerate quickly, they are completely outperforming Jinwoo's expectations. However, they do drain a ton of his energy. Just then, the leader of the pack reveals itself. It shows just how powerful it is as it easily takes down several soldiers, and Jinwoo's mana is completely depleted. His shadow soldiers were wiped out instantly, and Jinwoo doesn't have the mana to resummon them. Because of this, Jinwoo sends out the shadow version of Igris, the Red Armor Knight. The bear quickly attacks, but it's no match for Igris's fighting prowess. Igris absolutely wrecks the powerful beast and brings it to its knees. He ends the fight by cutting the monster's head off, and Jinwoo acknowledges how powerful his companion is. He is sure that if Igris was fighting with his sword the entire time during their battle, then Igris would have ended his life. He realizes that it's only at his current level that he's on equal footing with Igris. Jinwoo quickly corrects himself, however, as he thinks that he might still be weaker than him. Igris kneels before his master, and Jinwoo praises his loyal soldier. Elsewhere, we find that Kim Chu is struggling to breathe. The other members of his party have been eliminated, but Kim Chu vows to accomplish his goal of joining the elite of the White Tiger Guild. He's horrified to see the position he's in now, as the Ice Elves have surrounded him, and they finish off the last of his group. Kim Chu succumbs to fear and runs for his life as he is watched by the leader of the elves. Thanks for watching my recap. Subscribe to the channel for more videos.